voice or to have my voice heard. It's been drowned out with all the noise, all the drama surrounding my life, image of that. So I appreciate you creating a safe space for me to come and speak about my truth, my life, and allow my voice to be heard so that others can be healed and made whole as I testify.
You know, on the podcast, we have a mantra. We say we keep it lit. We live intentionally and transparently.
Yes.
Are you going to keep it lit today?
Lit all the way.
All the way.
Turned up.
You and I have had some conversations in the pre-interview. We've been getting to know each other for about the last week and a half.
Yes.
And man, when I tell you, I've been blown away by your transparency, your vulnerability. You know, and social media had this way of trying to make you look like you crazy.
Yes.
And when I met you, I talked to you, I'm like, this girl, not only is she not crazy, she's absolutely brilliant. So
wow.
What was that? What was that about?
Well, you know, I think the world did not see me for so many years, so they have nothing to go off of.
Facts.
And so they're seeing me for the first time when all of this crazy stuff is going on. And then I'm sitting up here talking about Jesus, talking about a helmet of salvation. So it's like, oh, she has lost her mind. You know, she is
Cuckoo for Cocoa
right. And I'm like, I'm saying I have a sound mind, and I know what's going on right now because I've been delving into the word. I'm discerning the time that I'm in from a spiritual state. And now I'm trying to protect what sanity I do have with the word of God. So I think that's kind of what fueled all of that. They're trying to get a feel for who I am.
Okay, hey guys, and welcome to Little Black Book. You know what time it is. Listen, we're going to break this all the way down. I'm probably going to have some unpopular opinions, but we're going to have to break this all the way down, all right? Because first and foremost, you know, shout out to Danae as well, because I think this was a great interview. She definitely gave a more coherent aspect in terms of her viewpoint. We got you know, I definitely saw her in a different light. I definitely, you know, got better understanding of where she was coming from and why she was behaving the way she was behaving. Okay. And we can definitely see she's in a much better place. Okay. So if you didn't watch the interview, I'll give you a quick little rundown of what we saw. And things that were mentioned very briefly, partly, which was, you know, they met up in college. You know, she had met him 3 weeks, and you're going to see this in the video. I'm just quickly giving you a quick breakdown. She met him 3 weeks after she had unfortunately been sexually assaulted. By what I mean by that is grape. And unfortunately, she'd been raped. And she met him. She also had some childhood trauma. Her father passed when she was 12, but he also, you know, let her down several times within the course of her childhood as well. And that was also a big trauma for her as well. And, you know, going through the relationship with himself, they ended up in a situationship several times. That was before they got married. That was, you know, they got in situationship when they moved to Atlanta. There was situationship in college as well. They actually broke up, and then, you know, she decided to go and fight for him back. She engineered a whole plan, you know, with a fellow colleague to get him back, you know, as well. So that also happened as well, at least get him back by, you know, showing him that she can also cheat, but she didn't actually cheat, but she pretended she cheated so that she can make him feel some type of way. And then, you know, then when that situation happened in Atlanta, she spoke about spiritual ties. I'm going to again talk about this. There is no such thing as soul ties in the Bible. None. And we need to dead this. Okay. All right. So I'm going to say some unpopular things people are not going to like. Dead this talk about, you know, dead this talk about soul ties. It don't exist. Okay. It don't exist. All right. It's not there. All right. It's not in the Bible. Okay. When people bring it to me, I appreciate it, but it's not existent in the Bible. Right, where we connect with people, it's psychological, it is mental. Okay, yes, we have connection with people. You're not tied to them by the soul. You know what I mean, right? There's no spiritual tie now that we're connected to you, so I can't get away from you. All that stuff is rubbish. Okay, I know it sounds bad, and I know, you know, and that, but we have to keep it a buck. A lot of what we're describing is psychological. It's not spiritual in that sense, right? Because what it does, it makes an excuse as to why I end up with no. The reason why you ended up there is because you have attachment issues, you have childhood trauma, you have the way you see, the way you value and love yourself, etc. All those kind of things that play into it as well. Then obviously as well, premarital. They went on to premarital counseling, but didn't finish it when I think traumatic stuff coming up for her. And that was a big issue too. And she got pregnant during the situationship. Okay, she got pregnant during the situationship, and that's actually what prompted him to then actually ask to marry her. Right, while she was enjoying the sex from our brother Derek Jackson. He had a roster of women. He was at the time, they were separated, they were broken up, and he had a roster of women that were coming in and out. And she would sometimes pass the girls coming out of his room, out of his house, and she'll be next in line. She said that quite freely. Okay, so there's quite a lot to go through in this interview. All I'm gonna say is this is exactly what we talk about on this channel. Okay, we can always make men the devil, but the reality is a lot of times people see things before and don't want to address it. Now, that does not mean that the person on the other side, the man, Derek Jackson, is abdicated. No, because we have to have a discussion about why he felt it was okay, why he felt it was okay to treat the woman that he said he cared for in this particular manner. Why he couldn't, why he's so broken that his behavior was disgusting enough to want to marry her and then still continue to cheat, emotionally, by talking to women that you had sex with or whatever. And that's another thing as well. And what you're gonna see, I want you to pay attention to something. Okay, I want you to pay attention to something. She had several, and this is why I always say she had several instances where she could have stopped and never got married to Derek Jackson. So I want women specifically to pay attention to this, and men too who get into abusive relationships. I need you to pay attention, because what's going to happen is you're going to always blame the other party. And I'm looking at you going, no, look at you. Because when you get into a situation, there are several instances where you can say, I'm going to turn away. I'm going to turn away. Not once did I hear in her interview, and I watched it really quickly, I put it on 1.5. Did she say, hey, you know what? He actually chased me and he cornered me and I couldn't get away from him. And everywhere I turned, he was there. Not once did she say that. Right? This is her pursuit. Right now, of course, he did ask for a hand in marriage, and I agree with that part, right? So yes, he did ask for a hand in marriage, but before that, there was a whole lot of pursuit, all right. And then his behavior in the marriage was no different than it was when he was single. Oh, sorry, when he was single and when he was dating her, right? Nothing had changed. Okay, I mean, would you call him a narc? I wouldn't even call him a narc. I don't think we get to call him a narc, because there's no part of him trying to destroy you. There's no part of him in generally trying to destroy you. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's maybe we can say that there's something deeper. And of course, there are some other psychological things probably happening with him. I wouldn't even call it a narc. I think narc is an easy way out, but he wasn't trying to destroy her. You know what I mean? Like, in what she was explaining, there isn't any part of him trying to destroy her. Him completely chasing her and love bombing her and all that stuff. None of that was being said. None of that was said. So it's like, in reality, was that really anything? No. I think he was he grew up taking advantage, and he continued taking advantage. Sad reality. If you can have your cake and eat it, some men will never stop. You know what I mean? Some men will never stop. So that's what we have to establish from the very, very beginning. So when we jump into this, I know it's going to be a deep one. So let's get into this video. Let's talk a little bit, let's talk a little bit about this. It's not easy. And I do respect the fact that she also was accountable. She said that she's a willing participant. She kept on saying that, she was involved. She kept on saying that she chose this. And I guess that's probably the work that she's done as well. Now, let's get into the video. Now, just to address the first thing I want to talk about, right? The first addressable part I want to talk about is what she spoke about here, right? She spoke eloquently about God allowing her time to now talk on this platform. I love that, right? Because I think that is an important time and season when you choose to talk. I do believe that bringing God into things is very, very important. What I would say is, when she was explaining a part of this situation, for instance, when she was explaining about Jesus and everything like that, it's not spiritual warfare. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes we make relationships spiritual. I know War Room is a very beautiful film. Listen, I love War Room, yeah? But sometimes we make it too spiritual. I'm not saying that there isn't times we need to pray for your partner. There isn't times we need to ask God to invite him and say, God, sort this motherfucker out. But there are also times where God's looking at you like, my brother, my sister, if I jump in and save this situation, there are only going to be more situations because the person's character ain't great. And so when she came on the internet talking about Jesus, that's not why we found her crazy. That's not why people thought she was crazy. People thought she was crazy because she's not addressing the actual issue through psychological and practical means. When people start over spiritualizing things, you didn't marry your bride in the spiritual realm. You married them in the physical realm. Therefore, we have to address certain things in a practical, psychological arena. When we start trying to make it spiritual on all fronts, not that there can't be some aspects of it, there are, right? Then what we start doing is people start looking at you some way. Like if your man is cheating, I gotta fight against the devil. No, the devil is not even involved, my D. Okay, all right. He gave into the temptation and he decided he wanted to do these things. Okay, so sometimes we throw Satan into things and it's like Satan's not even involved. Okay, all right. Sometimes Satan's not even involved. The reality is sometimes man or woman does what they do. But let's say man, because it's a man here who's done this. Derek Jackson does what he wanted to do. And that's got nothing to do with Satan and all to do with the fact that as man, you are not, there's been a breach in your own walls in terms of your morality and in terms of your own safeguarding of the person you said that you love. You know what I mean? So with that being said, let's get into this video. All right, don't over spiritualize everything, people. It's not the way to go. Let's break this down. Let's get into deeper aspects as well.
You haven't always been a Christian.
No.
Look, I want to take an opportunity to get to know you before we talk about what everybody wants to know, because like I said, I want to provide this opportunity for us to get to know you, Danae, outside of your spouse. Who is Danae?
Danae is a girl from Denver, Colorado, born and raised. I have some brothers and three brothers and sister. And while I was introduced to Christianity and actually did have some roots in the church, I had to figure out that on my own. I had to identify with Christ and believing in him on my own. And so when I was younger, I had a belief in Christ, but I felt like I was doing it more so because that's what I was supposed to do.
Right.
You're supposed to believe in God. You're supposed to do this. And I'm very shy. I'm very reserved and laid back. But then at the same time, you can get a side of me that's very just like let's throw some spikes in your hair and just go, do something completely odd that nobody's expecting. So you kind of get a range there. And so that's me pretty much in a nutshell. Very reserved. I'm very loyal. Sometimes clearly to my own detriment. Yeah. And so that's a little bit about me.
Well, when you say loyal to your own detriment, has that always been the case?
I feel like it has, at least in my adult years. Probably not so much as a child, but when I'm looking back on why that is, it stems back to a root of rejection and abandonment that I had. And so as I grew up into my adult life, I definitely would say it was more in that aspect. So
we think about abandonment. What do you go back on when you hear yourself say, when I think about the abandonment that I've come from? Let's unpack that.
Yeah. So abandonment, with my father, I had teenage parents. My mom was 16 when she had me. My father was 18. They never really had a relationship per se. They were just supposed to be playing video games.
They were playing with other things.
Here you go. Merry Christmas, right? Because my birthday is in December, a couple days before Christmas.
Okay.
Video games, here I go, the present. And so, there's a little bit of rejection and abandonment there, right? Because I never really had parents that were a couple, right? And then that, they're about whether or not I was actually my father's or not. And so then I had that, even though I wasn't even born yet to receive that per se, but that still affected me because I grew up and found out about that. And then there was rejection. And then just the relationship that I had with my father growing up, I felt like he just wasn't as present as he could be, or he would always not come through or follow through on his promises when he said he would do something. And so that all affected me. And then boom, he died when I was 12.
Let's pause it right there. Because y'all know that whenever I talk about why people move mad, their childhood is absolutely to blame. This is a perfect example of that. I find it hard pressed to find anybody who's not toxic, dysfunctional, moves in a particular way that is just not conducive to a healthy relationship, that doesn't have some messed up, traumatic childhood oftentimes, right? And sometimes people are very good at covering it up, you know, because they don't want to expose people and stuff like that. But reality is most people who are dysfunctional in adulthood have dysfunctional childhoods. You don't just become this dysfunctional being out of nowhere, right? So now let's have a little conversation about this quickly as well, right? So if you're new here as well, guys, sorry, we break things down here. So just in case anybody's new here and you thought we're going to watch the whole video together, this is not a kumbaya moment. We're going to break some stuff down. Now, here's a really key point, right? She made a very key point. First and foremost, the biggest issue, and not even say biggest issue, right? Her parents are teenage parents. I don't think that's even much of an issue, right? Because of course people are not ready, but no one's really ready for being a child, right? But I get it. 16 and 18, and mom's very, very young. I wonder what the relationship was like with her mom. Now, here's the thing. As much as the dad is also an issue, because we talk about how father figures are very important, especially for daughters, and how they see love in terms of the parents being happening. That's one aspect, and we'll discuss that in a second or two. I wonder what her relationship was with her mom too. I wonder how that played out, because her mom being 16, being young, losing her childhood or innocence, losing her young flourishing years, you know, because at 16, you're still a teenager, you know what I mean? So that's a major issue too. How does she handle being a mother? Then we got to discuss about the fact that there was the issue between the father and the mother. If they were just having sex, what kind of relationship did they have? Was it one that was cordial? Was it one that was loving, caring? Was it one that where, you know, he showed affection to her? What was the kind of relationship like? Because that's also going to affect how she sees relationships happen between men and women, and how she believes she has to be treated in a relationship, right? That's another thing. Then the other aspect is this. Then she mentioned something really powerful. She said then there was paternal issues too, because they wasn't sure whether it was his kid or not, the father's kid. That's also another issue. So that would have been plaguing the relationship. I wonder how that would have affected the mother and the father relationship while she was in the womb, right? Because we also have to understand as well that things happen to children in the womb, right? So the emotions, the feelings, the interactions that mother is having with the child in the womb. Listen, man, them who are listening to this, any men who have got this, listen, be very careful. In the womb is a very, very, very important time. You may think that child is just in the womb and it don't mean nothing, but your behaviors, how that mother feels, she's connected to the baby. There's a cord connecting the mother and the child. So whatever you think you're getting away with, you're not going to get away with, because whatever you're treating the mother like, however she's going to feel, is going to start inducing into that baby. Her feelings, her thoughts, her emotions are going to seep into that child. So the child can sometimes even come out of the womb with unconscious thoughts, behaviors, feelings. Now, maybe that's not very scientific, but you can fight me on that one, right? And so that's also very important as well in terms of how she came out as well, looking at a particular time. And I say this because biblically, it's interesting how when even in the Bible, when a child, for instance, in Genesis, you see that when the mother gives birth, she'll name the child according to how she felt, right? This is Jacob and his wives, Rachel and Leah. And at times, Leah will say, this is my joy. Because I birthed him in pain, I named him this, Jabez. That's later on in the Bible. But so if you go through the names in the Bible and you read it in AMP version, by the way, as well, like you'll see that the mother, when she births a child, she'll name it and name it something. You know what I mean? So you have to be very, very careful what you are going to be doing and saying in these moments, and how you're going to treat a woman while she's pregnant with your child. That does not mean you can't argue. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is there has to be a way we're going to operate, because that child is going to feel everything. You get what I'm saying to you? Yeah? Okay, cool. So furthermore from that, then after, she then comes out and says, wait, hold on a minute. The relationship I even had with my father, I wish he was more emotionally present. I wish he was more involved in my life in the way that I needed to. So that then breeds this rejection, and then breeds this abandonment feeling, even though he's still physically there, he's emotionally unpresent. So then now you're really looking at her life and her situation, coming into a family of dysfunction, and how she feels is alienated. Right? A father who should cover her and emotionally respond to her and emotionally care for her isn't doing so. So she's actually unprotected and uncovered in this particular way. So now the feelings of the ability to feel safe is not happening. This is what creates this. This is what I don't know if I can go there because it's going to be deep, you know. Let me be very careful how I say this. But you know, these situations, right, where the father doesn't cover emotionally. I'm going to give you a biblical example. King David in the Bible, right, had many wives. Well, I didn't have many, but he had a few wives or whatever, right? And then had children, different children, right? Now, one of his children is called Tamar. Okay, all right. Tamar in the Bible, okay. I'm looking from a psychological point of view. David had his own daddy issues. Then, out of not healing from those daddy issues, has different women, right? Has different women who are now vying for the throne for their next child. But one of these children he has is Tamar. Then he has another child called Amnon, who's a half brother of Tamar. Amnon, okay, in his deep-seated hurt for whatever reason, I'm probably guessing because of the way that David probably treated his mom and the way that they are considered in the family, he has whatever issue he has. Then he tricks Tamar, his half sister, to come into his chambers, and he grapes his sister, because YouTube doesn't like that, right? Grapes his half sister. Then when he grapes her, after he finishes it, he hates her. Now, this story is really interesting because from a psychological point of view, when you deep it, there's another half brother to Amnon called Absalom, who's a full brother, I think. Isn't it a full brother of Tamar? Who sees what has been done, okay, what has been done to his sister. Now, King David sees what his son has done to the daughter, but doesn't do anything about it. He becomes neutral, okay? He becomes neut. And so Absalom, the son, then goes after Amnon and kills him. Now, why am I bringing this story up? Because when fathers don't cover, when fathers don't emotionally cover, when they are not present, they leave room for other influences to come in and begin to program those children, right? So when you don't do your job as a father figure, and you make sure you guard the door, the Bible says that, you know, how can one take over a house unless they arrest the strong man? The strong man is you as a father, right? You as a father, if you don't do your job emotionally covering your children, meaning you're emotionally present, you're attuned, you're receiving and you're giving and you're listening to your children, what you may, and look, I'm not saying that parents haven't gone through tough things. Some parents have gone through hardships. Some parents are working 2-3 jobs to make things happen. I get it. I'm not trying to shade them. I'm saying the psychological effects, though, this is real. When you don't do that, you leave the door open. Okay? All right? You leave the door open. Very true, Dahlia. Very, very true about that story. Very, very true. Right? Very, very true. You leave the door open. Right? Now, what she's described here is what the door has been left open. By the father not engaging with the daughter, he has simultaneously sentenced her to death emotionally, because what he's saying is that's not important. That's not important. And yet, that's going to be the very thing that she's going to yearn for, to want to go and receive outside of the four walls of her home. Do you get what I'm saying to you? Right? So now we've got a situation where the father has poorly done a job, and as I said, we don't know about the mother because she never discussed about the mother, so we can only talk about the father. Now she's yearning for emotional reciprocity. She's yearning for emotional coverage. She's yearning for somebody to emotionally give and inject into her life, because she hasn't really had that from the father figure. Yeah, he might have provided, maybe paid some bills, maybe he did this and that, but he's left her open. Now her nature too also is going to play a part in this, because we see something similar in Married at First Sight with Kirsten, where her dad was a great at financial, but it doesn't really sound like he was there emotionally because the way she is. But anyway, that's another story. You know, so depending on the nature of the child as well, how they respond to the adversity of not having that emotional care too. Some children are fight, some children are flight, some children are freeze, some children are flop, some people are befriend. However they handle these type of situations. Okay, so whenever the father figure is not handling his thing, when he's not standing there, he causes there to be openness, and that means now that other influences can now enter into the fold. Now, of course, if a father dies, he dies, right? He died at 12, but before that, he wasn't really present. That's what she felt, and she felt at 12. Okay, now I'm not trying to cuss him. I'm just trying to make it very clear so other people can understand, just in case you're somebody who's also listening, going, wait, maybe I had something similar. You know, I grew up in a household where my father wasn't really present. You know what I mean? Like I hear what she's saying, and I kind of feel what she's going through, right? There's going to be a call that's going to be pulling on you, and this is very important because I often talk about the inversion that young men who don't have great father figures either, they suffer too, and there's usually an inversion that they usually become very manipulative and very derogative, and they treat women badly and they mishandle women because in actual fact, they are bleeding and they are using women as emotional punching bags. That's what oftentimes men are doing. So this Derek Jackson thing, I bet if we dive into his childhood, we're going to find some things there too as well as to why he felt it was okay to mistreat her, mishandle her on several occasions, and keep on trying to cheat on her while in the marriage situation. So I'm sure if we went deeper, we'd see these things. Let's get back into the video, talking about father figures as well, and let's get deeper. Okay. So I should put this on the bottom. I didn't. But anyway, let's go. Let's get into this next part.
And so then, I'm just left to try to figure out the demand is rejection there. And as I was younger, I used to be like a tomboy per se, right? And that was because I wanted the affection of my father. I had two brothers at the time, and so they were playing football. He was their football coach. He was involved in all them over here. Just this little girl over here. I was fat, I was. My mom was in culinary school at the time, so she was practicing, and I was eating.
Helping to pass assignments.
Exactly. And so I would try to, win his affection and his love by trying to be like a tomboy, like my brothers, like play football. I wanted to be on a football team. My mom was like, absolutely not. But all of that stemmed from my childhood, and then that transformed as I grew older, and then transformed into the relationship that everybody is interested in. So.
Beautiful. Point number 2. Let's go for it. She just said a beautiful thing. Said her father spent time with the boys. Okay. And this is what happens when men. This is what happens when men are not emotionally mature and they're not emotionally intelligent. They're going to struggle. Okay, they're going to struggle. I remember one girl that I spoke about her father being really great when she was young. Then she got older, and it's like he just didn't understand. Right? And that usually comes because emotional intelligence and emotional maturity is lacking. The ability to be able to, and we're going to talk about emotional regulation, the ability to understand, process, and express is also very, very key. This is another thing, right? The inability to be able to express and the inability to be able to process or understand information and understand emotions is going to be very difficult, because when we deal with women and girls, the reality is, and I'm not going to say women are more emotional, but the way that they communicate often is on an emotional plane. There are feelings that are heavily involved. Okay. When men are usually dealing with things, it's about solution orientation. Doesn't mean that women aren't solution orientated. It means what do we usually kind of fall upon, right? But when you're dealing with women, young women, girls, whatever you want to talk about, you oftentimes we're talking on from emotional planes. That's not every woman, but the majority of women do. Oftentimes, we have I call it a lexicon of emotion, right? Their language is emotive. Okay, it is feeling based. So if as a man you are not intuitive with your emotion, and that doesn't mean you have to behave like the mother. What we're saying is being able to be aware of your own deficiencies is one thing, the strengths and your weaknesses, and also being emotionally present, which means oftentimes it's not even you talking about emotions. It's not even you often saying, I get your emotions. It's just being present. Now, when you're not able to regulate yourself emotionally, you don't like being around people that are too emotional, because it starts to affect you. You struggle to be able to see this. If you've read the book Will Smith, he will tell you about his struggle to even identify with Willow. And it's only until he spent more time with Willow and as he started listening, because it's the key thing, listening to her, he started to realize she is moving in a different way, right? She's moving in a different way, and she's causing him to reassess what are emotions, right? What are emotions? So now we see the situation. Probably the same thing happened with her father as well, that he now had to come into a realization, what is emotions? Now you got two choices here, right? You get confronted with two choices here. You're going to either step up and say, I need to change my world viewpoint and change it from being about how I see things previously, or I'm going to embrace this new world, and I'm going to learn the new language and learn the new way and learn the new culture of dealing with my daughter. But he had two sons. And unfortunately, I can almost guarantee you the two sons probably had a different experience with their father than she did. Because what they would have needed is time, right? All she needed was time. But how he spent his time was in, well, so long as they're playing football, he going to spend as much time as they need. He going to understand that language, right? He gets that, you know. So in reality, he'll have a different relationship with the boys. You get what I'm saying to you? But with his daughter, he's gonna struggle because he's gonna need to be able to relate on her plane, right? But what happened is either he changes or she changes. This is an important lesson, especially for those who are men. I want, again, if you can pass it, if you're a lady here, I know majority of ladies here, but maybe you got some boys, you got some young men, you got some brothers, pass this part of the video on as well, right? You got a choice, because now your child is going to make a choice. Either they're going to change or you're going to change. One or two is going to give, because that child is going to look for any way to feel safe. And that, what she said, is exactly what happened. She decided to change because her nature is one that's of accommodation than it is of being necessarily aggressive or fighting back. Other children might not have done because their nature would have been to fight back. So they would have been like, I'm going to go deeper into what this is. I'm going to harden my shell. But her one was, well, I'm more of an accommodating person. That's not a bad thing. We need those type of people in our society. There are different types of people. But her nature, okay, met nurturing. So her nature met the nurture. So her nature was to be more accommodating. And so she met her father, who wasn't going to accommodate or wasn't going to reassess his behavior in that time. And he didn't have enough time, to be honest. She was 12 and he died. So, you know, he might not have had enough time, but by 12, you're already set in most of your ways. But then, you know, so what happens is she then begins to shift, right? She moves over and becomes more of a tomboy in order to draw the attention, right? In order to retrieve the attention. I'll give you an example. Myself, I'm firstborn, right? And I remember when I started having siblings, shout out to my siblings, love them. When I started having siblings, I remember after 4, I was like, where's my attention? It's gone. You know what I mean? Before I knew it, I'm in responsibility. So now, depending on my nature, how am I like? My nature is to be accommodating. So what I did was I learned how to accommodate, to withdraw the affection that I required, is to become a workhorse. I will cook, I will clean, I will do things that will try and get the attention of the parent. So after my siblings are coming, that's what was happening to me as a firstborn. All right, cool, responsibility. Okay, I'll take it on because maybe I'll get some praise. Okay, all right, then you know, I'll look after my siblings. I'll miss summer holidays because I'll get the attention of my parents. All of that you don't realize as a child, because it's your nature. You're more accommodating. You will shift your position to accommodate the parent. You see what I'm saying to you, right? So some children do it differently. Other children do it in different ways, depending on their nature and what they're like. My one was to go into a more place of just trying to be the best I could be, you know? And that's what made me a people pleaser. You know, so that was the situation. Now, so that's what she's talking about now. She now tells us that she had to accommodate herself. She had to accommodate her father and then shift her position and try and draw the affection from her parent. And that's where a lot of children are. And that's how they end up becoming people pleasers. Okay. All right. Now, look, I'm also going to be fair, because a lot of our parents, especially those coming from Africa and the Caribbean, you know, they're working 2 jobs, 3 jobs, and it's not easy. This is unfortunately the repercussions that can happen in households where financial disparities happened, because the focus is on so much surviving that emotions are not met. Now, this, let me add the caveat here. That's not because we're poor. That's because we're poor emotionally. Because a lot of people are coming from survival mode. I've told you this already about this, where I said my dad himself didn't really have his dad around. So for him, he's giving the best he can give because he never had it. You understand what I'm saying to you? And in his head, good fathership is I've put clothes on your back, food in your belly, and you got a roof over your head. But now he's older, he realizes that's not enough. I need to talk. I need to have conversations with my children because they catch on late because they were in survival mode. And now they've got rid of the kids. This is why I say I give grace to a lot of parents. Now, and those of you who have parents like this, please, forgiveness is a big thing we need to work on, right? As children, because some of us are looking at our parents like they didn't do it, but they put food on your table, they put this on your back, they did do those things, right? Now, the reason why they focus on those things is because those were the most important things at the time. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that is the most important thing at the time. Emotions are not emotions are a luxury to a lot of people because they are working in the field, right? They're working in the field. And some of these, what people don't realize is, and this is my last point before we go back into the video, especially those who are coming from, if you're in America, you're coming from an African or a Caribbean background where you've come to America and maybe you're first generation who've been born on that land, on soil, or if you come to America, come to UK and you're first born on that soil, what you'll realize is a lot of our parents were struggling. You understand what I'm saying to you, right? To make a life. And so what happens is they've also come from survival. So long as they're surviving and they're not dead, your life is good. Because they don't have time to reason and to fight with emotions. It's not necessary when you're trying to survive. When you're on the run, you don't think about how I don't feel good right now. You just got to be on the run. You understand what I'm saying to you? So this is where we have to work on ourselves to also grow in that point in time as well. And that's what she's talking about right there. Survival mode. 16 and 18 her parents were. No, nothing. They're young. They're not even in love. They're messing around. Let's get back into the video. Okay? All right? Let's get back into the video. All right? Let's thrive as our future generation of parents in the emotional capacity as well. Let's add that to our list to grow. You know what I mean? It's not easy, but we can grow in that as well.
So, did you deal with any type of childhood trauma when you think about it outside of abandonment?
So again, my dad never followed really through on his promises. So when I would go over there, sometimes I would cause some issues between him and my stepmom, and then I would be at my grandma's house. And so
you say it was cause issues like what? What do you mean?
So they would just have like their little arguments or whatever, and I felt like it was always about me. But of course, I'm a child, so I don't know adult things at that time. But how I internalized it and what I carried with me is that, oh, this is about me being over here. Now I'm over here, I'm disrupting their little family union, and my mom is over here, and I feel like maybe she's jealous of my mom or something like that, and this is all going on while I'm a child. So this is what I grew up with, what the capacity that I had. And so that was pretty much the main trauma that I had. I didn't have another trauma until I was 19 where I was raped. And so I still kind of include that in childhood trauma. So
it's been an interesting thing to see.
And pause it right there. That is so painful to go through and to hear as well. That is very painful because what she just described there is, again, how she thought about the process. So going over to her father's house, who's at his grandma's, she got over there and she can see there's many arguments going on. And I said this already about children, we're almost narcissistic. Children are almost narcissistic in the sense of they feel everything is about them. It might not even be about them, but they feel everything is about them. And it's so interesting. It probably was about her, to be honest. I won't deny her that. Most things are about children, to be honest. But, how she processed it was, it must have been about me. Now, what for somebody who's accommodating, what is that going to do to her mindset? Right? She's going to do everything she can to make sure she's not the problem. Right? She's going to do everything she can to make sure she is not the problem. She's going to do everything she can to make sure that she isn't causing trouble. She's going to be on her best behavior. She's going to try and be perfect. Okay? All right? She's going to try and be perfect, and that is hard weight upon your shoulders, being perfect, so that people can like you. Right? so people can like you. That is a lot of weight. And so that in itself is traumatic. Trying to be perfect when you can't be perfect because you're a human being, it's tough. You feel what I'm saying to you? So that in itself. But then she mentioned something so powerful. She said, I had a father who didn't follow through on his promises. And it's funny because I was literally listening to a video the other week. I listened to a TED talk by a black man, and he was talking about father figures, because I was trying to understand how the absence of father figures is so important. You know, and what's so key is he mentioned about the father who peekaboos, you know, who shows up when he wants, and, you know, peekaboo, I'm here, you know. But then he talks about the father who is unreliable, the father that, you know, says, yeah, I'm going to be here, but then doesn't end up turning up. The father said, I'm going to see you this week, but doesn't see you this week. The father that lets you down, and it becomes this very painful experience and cyclical trauma that happens because you get your hopes up and they get dashed. And what happens is, in the end, you learn to just throw away your expectations. Right now, for men, this is detrimental because, one, you know, your aspirations in terms of finances, your aspiration in terms of your ambitions and your goals, your aspiration in terms of your emotional stability is compromised. Mentally, you're compromised, right? Because now you're also, for the men per se, when it happens like this, when you get into relationships, right, you struggle to express how you feel because you feel like it won't be heard, or you express to say what you want because you're afraid it won't be met. You know what I mean? So you learn to manage your expectations by lowering them and lowering the bar. Now, for women, because they're being chosen by men, when she lowers the bar, unfortunately, she ends up oftentimes getting met by wolves. Because there are wolves who are always circling, looking for, as the Bible says, seeking to and fro for those whom they may devour. Okay? They have a devilish agenda. And they seek to and fro, looking for who they may what? Destroy, to still kill and destroy. And so what you'll see is a lot of those boys who become men are hunting for women like her. No doubt Derek Jackson is one of those men, right? So what will happen is, because she has a mode of wanting to prove, because remember, we've seen it already, she's already changed herself. Oh my God, I didn't even deep this until now. Wow. Because she wanted to deep, oh my gosh, hold on. Let's deep this, because, whoo, baby, it's the dots are connecting. The dots are connecting. Ooh. Okay, so just deepen it, right? She's a very accommodating person. That's her nature. But it's met the nurturing that she's had, right? From her father figure. And we don't know sure about her mother because it wasn't mentioned, right? But if you're a person that is very accommodating and you've met trauma, you're going to accommodate for people you shouldn't accommodate for, because your awareness of your value is compromised. Because remember, your value system is going to be based upon how you were treated as a youngster. Now, if she went to her father's home and to the grandma's house, and her father was there, and she's not even sure if her father even wants her, do you know what she's actually really saying? What she's really saying now is, when she's going to get older, she's going to choose somebody who she's going to try and prove herself to. My God. So the person who doesn't even really want them, she's going to try and prove herself to that person. And when you hear her story, it makes sense why she got to that point. Because in the beginning, he said he wanted her, when they broke up, she was fighting for him. She wanted to prove to him that she won it, right? Now, when you're trying to prove to somebody that you want this situation, that becomes your source of validation, that if I can attain you, I can have it, then what's going to happen is you put yourself in situations where the person may not want you, may not like you, maybe emotionally unavailable, just wants to use your body for sex, and you take your gratitude and your validation from them even having access to you. Right? So now, because he's a good-looking guy and, you know, he wants to enter you, you're excited by it because it's like, well, I see him as quality, as value, and if he wants to sleep with me, then I must be valuable. But the reality is, I just want to sleep with you. You know what I mean? The reality is, I just want to sleep with you. Now, of course, if you're in a healthy state of mind and you want to have sex, I don't approve it. I don't approve of it. I mean, because biblically speaking, that's not the right thing to be doing. But if that's what you want to do, you're okay. But if you're not in a safe place, like emotionally, you're not emotionally aware. You're not somebody who's emotionally mature. If you're somebody who's had a lot of trauma in terms of their value system, then what you'll realize is the people that come to you oftentimes have a ravenous wolf mentality. They're looking to chew. They're not looking to value. And this is where Derek Jackson comes in, because he wasn't looking to value her. He was looking for a safety net, right? He was looking for a safety net. Now, what's intriguing about this is that in her situation with Derek Jackson, number one thing that would have happened is she mentioned he's a very good looking guy. And he is, let's be honest, whether you hate him or not, he's a very good looking guy. And I'm sure he probably was even more finer with him being in college or school or whatever, and him being an athlete, right? It just adds to the status. Now, when somebody of status or prominence is now looking at you and going, you're sexy, you know, you're good looking, your gratitude, your validation is magnified in that moment, because you're like, wait, somebody special saw me. Because remember, when you're a child, you're looking for two things: to be seen and to be heard. If you're not seen and heard, you're going to find another way to be seen and heard. Do you see what I'm saying to you? Right? You're going to find another way to be seen and heard. And oftentimes people can go the other way, because what's happening is if they're overly seen and overly heard, abusive and toxic, dysfunctional relationships where there may be violence, emotional abuse, they go the opposite way, which is they try to be unseen and unheard. Do you get what I'm saying? Because they don't want to, they're scared that when they get seen and when they get heard, abuse is going to happen. So it can go the other way too. But in this situation, what we've seen is she's unseen, she's unheard, and so she's gone somewhere. She's gone to a place now. Unfortunately, she's also been raped as well. So her sovereignty over her own body has been robbed. So not only has she been robbed of the opportunity to be seen and heard and to be said, you're valuable to me, she now goes to a party. Unfortunately, you're going to get to this part in a minute. Gets to a party, and unfortunately, she is raped by somebody, and in that robs her of her own sovereignty. And now, again, the further question is this: what value do you hold? What value do you hold? Because in that moment of that grape too, you weren't heard. You didn't want it. You weren't heard. And you weren't seen. In the most heinous and the most disgusting of ways, you weren't seen and you weren't heard. Right? Then the question becomes, are you really worthy of being seen and really heard? Am I allowed to be seen and heard? Questions like that pop in your head, and they get reinterpreted in the way you behave, because how our attitudes and how our mindset is affects our behavior. Our attitude and our belief systems, which are based upon our experiences. Let me break this down for you so you get it quickly. Our perception, okay, how we're going to see the world, is based upon our attitude, but our attitude is informed by our beliefs, but our beliefs are informed by our experiences. And I say belief, not faith, because the two are different. Belief is based on what you prove through facts, basically what you've seen. What you've seen. So that is based upon your experience. So your experiences are informing your beliefs, and your beliefs are now informing your attitude, and your attitude is now informing your perception. And I'm going to say something look, because this is kind of close to home, so I kind of know what this is. There are people that go through certain things in childhood that creates this attitude in the person and a disposition in the person that makes them seem like easy meat. Yeah. There's a disposition that is formed through childhood that can make certain women look like easy meat and can make them seem like this person can be done to. Right? There's something about it. Right? There's something about what you've gone through that when you don't have a value system for yourself, when you in your mind don't have a good value of yourself, you don't have a good self-love, you don't have a good awareness of what you carry. There are men that take advantage of that, and that includes cheating. And I'm not saying that you can stop cheaters, by the way. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm talking about those people that, you know, they're serial cheating on you. You know what I mean? There are people that abuse you physically, mentally, emotionally. People that even grape you. There's some men who are looking for opportunity. And it's not all, by the way. It's not all. I'm very much aware that it's not all. I'm talking about certain type. This is not all. So please don't say it's all. It's not all. There are certain type that some people are looking at and looking for an opportunity, right? And this is nuts. Okay, so it's scary because, and this is why I said about going back to the very beginning as a father figure. If you don't do your job by covering your daughter emotionally, you leave her exposed. And when she's exposed, because she's carrying this wound, there are other animals out there who are looking to devour a wounded animal. Let's get back into the video because it's mad out here.
Another podcast. It's like almost every woman that sat down on this couch during this season have dealt with sexual trauma, sexual assault, rape.
Oh,
Yes.
It was a statistic that I read that was 1 in 5 women have dealt with sexual.
I mean, it's a bit late, guys. I do apologize. Trigger warning: if you have gone through any sexual assault, sexual violence, this part may be triggering. So let me put it out there as well. So just trigger warning: this part will be talking about sexual violence, sexual assault, and rape as well. So please, if you need to take time out, you just need to step away. No problems at all. Just wanted to warn anybody as well. I know everybody kind of said it already, but they're going to talk a little bit more as well. So just anybody out there, trigger warning as well. Apologies. I should have said it earlier.
Assault. And then now they said there's probably 1 in 3 or something like crazy.
Absolutely.
What happened in that? Was it a boyfriend, a date rape situation, a relative, or what happened, if you don't mind sharing?
So I was 19. I was on summer from college actually, and I was going out to a party that I didn't tell my mom about. I was, doing my own thing, and I went there, and I did have an ex-boyfriend there, and a couple other people, my family, my brothers were there, and their friends and things like that. And so we were all drinking, having a good time. I was downstairs, and one of the people there decided that they, seen me, and they wanted what they wanted. And so I was grabbed from behind. I was pushed down, and then, there's that story of being raped, but everybody was upstairs, so they couldn't hear me downstairs, in the basement screaming with over the music and all of that. So
How'd you process that? Did you tell anybody?
I did not process it. And so I did not process it at all. I didn't tell anybody. In fact, then I didn't go home that night. I actually stayed in the house with my abuser, right? Not like in the same place, but they were like upstairs, I stayed the night. I didn't tell my mom where I was at. And I actually lied to her. I was at my uncle's house with my aunt and my brothers. And so I never told her, and I never told anybody else. I actually held it for 5 years. And then I briefly mentioned it to Derek at one point because he was talking to someone at the time. And then it came up like in the conversation, and I was like, I was raped, and this just triggered that. And he was like, what? So he didn't even find out till 5 years. And it was just a brief conversation. And then I never really dealt with it. I never got that therapy or counseling. And I didn't get that until I was 30, which at that point was about 12 years after the experience. And when I started unpacking it, I started to realize how much that single event really affected my life, affected my sex life in marriage, affected my mental and emotional state, affected almost every aspect that I didn't even know that it was affecting.
Man. This situation is very deep. And these situations are very deep, and the reason why it's so deep is because the psychological effects that happens to somebody when they go through this is second to none. And I'm not going to pretend as if I understand every detail of this, right? But the robbing of somebody's agency and sovereignty and ability to say no does things to you. So aside all the other trauma, right? This level of trauma is a pile-on to what she's already experienced, but it further reinforces the fact that she has no agency, or you don't deserve love. You know what I mean? You don't deserve to be heard or to be seen. You don't deserve to be cared for. You're not valuable. What it does to the mind and the reason why I say this, because obviously after speaking to a few people who have gone through it, you know, because if you hang around enough women, you will hear the stories, right? And so the robbing of the agency, especially the sovereignty, is such a big thing. Sorry about that. It's such a big thing because how it affects you when you go into a relationship is about how you see yourself, and then what value you place on yourself. And then the questions that happen about, did I deserve it? Now, if you listen to her story, I went to a party and I didn't, you know, I didn't tell my mom, almost in a sense. And then there's this guilt. Okay, there's this guilt that begins to hit you because it's like, well, if I had told my mom about the party, she might have said no, and then I wouldn't have gone to the party, and then I wouldn't have been there, and then I wouldn't have got raped by somebody. You know what I mean? Like if I had just listened to my mom, I wouldn't be in a situation. And then there's this guilt of, if I had done this, would it have changed? Right? And the reason why, and this is one of the things that really hit me and struck me, is that this, and I heard this from my friend who runs a sexual violence charity, by the way, for Black women. And one of the things that she said, which is so powerful to me, is if you have a reason for why you got raped, then it makes more sense. Then the world is not scary, because then you have a reason for it. But if you don't have a reason for it, then the world is very scary, because it can happen at any point in time. And so what survivors do is they try to make a story or a narrative or a reason as to why, for themselves, why they got raped. And when I say a reason or story, I mean an explanation to make themselves feel better, because if they don't, then the world is a very scary place. And I said, whoa, that's wild, y'all. That is very, very wild. I didn't think of it that way. Right? Because if you don't have a narrative, and I think Darla just kind of said it as well, right? If you don't, then it's like, this can happen at any time, any place. You know, I you know what I mean? If I don't have a story, then I have lost control, and then so what happens is, then going into relationships, you go into free fall. Right? You kind of go into free fall, and you can lose all sense of self and value of self, because like, well, then what's the point? If I can't even have agency of myself, what's the point? And it's a very scary thing, man, you know? And I wish more men actually got the opportunity, and I shouldn't say opportunity, but listen to more stories by women who have gone through. It will change your perspective on how you deal with women. You know what I mean? It will change your perspective on how you deal with consent. It will change your perspective on how you deal with, when it comes to even sex, and how you think about it. Because, you know, when people are going through these things and you hear these stories, I've heard it too many times, and then it affects you, because it's like, you can't, people are going through stuff, and it's like, it's mad. You know what I mean? So yeah, you know, but there's a lot to deal with that, in that sense. But phew, yo, it's very heavy. You know, I do wish that Mandem actually got to that they did listen to some of these stories and actually like deep it. Like, yo, it's scary out there, bro. You know, scary. I literally told a friend a story. I said I had a situation in the gym. I had a situation, and this gay guy, and I know it's really cool. It was really cool. I know, but no biggie. But every time he comes, he touches me, and I don't say anything. I'm like, I'm trying to, and that's what I said to my friend. I realize I'm too accommodating, right? because it hasn't got to a point. Because what's going to happen is it's going to get to a point and I'm going to deck him. You know what I mean? It's going to come out of nowhere because I have not told him. I don't, brother, stop it, right? But I realized he would touch my chest, he touch my arms, he like trying to touch my leg, my thigh, and sometimes it's like I'm trying to accommodate. So I'm like, I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Like I'm not homophobic. Be free, whatever. But actually, after a while, I'm like, blood, you're touching me too much. Allow it, man. Do you know what I mean? But instead of me saying something in that moment, like, hey, bro, relax, I realize I'm too accommodating. So what's going to happen is one day he's going to do it and I'm going to deck him. Do you know what I mean? So, and then I started to realize, I said, wow, okay. So what happened is I started dodging him. I just started dodging him in the gym, bro. I just started dodging him. I don't want to see him. I just dodge him because I don't want to have to deal with the consequence of the situation. And that's what we call flight. Okay. All right. We call it flight. Yeah. So then you start to see how easily it can happen. And I'm not saying he's done anything necessarily like that per se, but I'm saying you can see how easily it can be misinterpreted. Do you see what I'm saying to you? Right? Because of my accommodating nature, right? I'm trying to be like, yeah, I don't want him to feel like he can't come and talk to man, you know what I mean? And everything. I'm cool, you know what I mean? But sometimes it's like, just leave me the personal space, nigga. Personal space. Okay. But yeah, no. So I didn't, and you know, and it gave me another revelation and perspective of how for women it can be very scary. You know what I mean? And how, you know, even not talking, just because the person didn't talk, doesn't mean that they're saying no. Do you know what I mean? So you know that can also be a thing. You know what I mean? So yeah. So for women, it's slightly different. Again, I'm not necessarily afraid of what he's going to do to me. You know what I mean? I'm not afraid that he gon' straggle me up and grab me and I can't fight back. You know what I mean? That's not my fight there per se. But if I'm a woman, I can understand why that could happen with a man. Do you know what I mean? I just need to stop being accommodating. Do you know what I mean? I need to stop. You know, I sometimes try to be accommodating. I want to feel free. You know what I mean? And if I felt it went too far, I'll probably end up decking him. That's no problem. But anyway, listen. Anyway, let's continue the conversation. I can understand as well. Do you get me? So, another revelation to understand where they're coming from. Just able to see as well. Again, but yeah. Anyway, let's get into it. Let's get back into the video as well.
First of all, thank you for sharing. It's always hard for me to hear that, and I'm trying to be present at it because I have a daughter.
Yes.
And one of the things that I was super vigilant about that, because me and her mom wasn't together as my daughter was matriculating through her adolescent years. And I was always like, super like, who you dating? Who's this guy? I want to know. Like, I was just on edge because I said, I just never wanted my daughter to ever have to experience that. And for me to have to experience that, because I don't know how I would have reacted and responded.
It's hard. It's hard when you have girls, and a lot of times it happens with people that you know, and that you trust, right? So my abuser is somebody that I know, or knew, and so your guard is automatically let down. It's not something that you can anticipate. So it's like, okay, you're doing the right thing, asking the questions where you're at, what you're doing, but sometimes you have to be like, I don't care who it is, uncle, brother, cousin, grandpa. If you feel uncomfortable at all, I need you to let me know so then we can address it. So
again, thank you for sharing that. Yeah. So you met your husband at what age, and how'd y'all meet?
At 19. We met in business calc class at Tuskegee University.
Hold on. So you met him shortly after your rape experience?
I did. 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
3 weeks after I met him in class. Yes. Right. And so then we add on another layer, right? I went straight into a relationship. Even though it wasn't like immediately we started dating, but I met him and there was interest there. I went straight into that without even acknowledging, dealing with the rape. I pretended like it never even happened and got myself into a relationship unhealed. So
what attracted you to Derek?
He's very
wait, hold on, let's pause that because that needs to be addressed. 3 weeks, y'all. 3 weeks. And I think this is also the biggest part too. the healing phase wasn't able to be met. Now, of course, she's much younger, so I'm not even talking in that sense. So she's 19, and you don't realize again, you know, how many people you don't realize the trauma it induces on you, right? You don't realize how much it affects your mind. You get what I'm saying to you? Now, there are different reactions people can take. People can go inwardly. People can become hypersexual. One thing I've also started to notice as well, and just maybe it's for another time and not for right now, but you know what I mean? But, you know, hypersexuality becomes a big thing. You know, wanting to throw yourself in more dangerous positions and more dangerous sexual escapades. It's one of those things as well that can result from that too. You know, I think there's also, you know, the different responses that people can have. But 3 weeks after, you are no state. And this is the biggest issue that we have as human beings. Our emotional injuries are not seen. And so it's hard to detect sometimes when you're when you're broken. You know what I mean? It's hard to detect sometimes when you've gone through some stuff that, you know what, I'm not in a fit state to you know what I mean? Sometimes a relationship can be a great reprieve from the thinking about some of the issues you're going through. Right? Sometimes the relationship, a relationship coming along can be something that can soothe the pain momentarily and have you deflect and distract yourself from thinking about some of the pain that you've gone through, you know? And so the healing can be delayed because it's like, I need to get into a relationship just to be able to not feel that pain, right? You medicate yourself based upon a relationship. You use a relationship to medicate yourself. Okay. So, you know, again, nothing's really bad has been said. It's just said that they met 3 weeks in and we go from there, you know?
He's very charming. When you see him, he has the charisma and a presence out here. It's just like it sucks you in automatically. And then he's very funny. And so that humor drew me in as well. Of course, he has the looks to go with it. So there's that.
So the little balance.
Yes, perfect balance of it all.
And so when you first saw him, did you just see him as somebody that, oh, I'm interested in him? Where is he pursuing you, or y'all start off as friends and it evolved to something greater?
No, so I actually was very quiet. Again, I'm pretty quiet overall and to myself, but he see me in class. I was the quiet girl in class, and he was like, "Hey, are you a model?" I was like, I used to do some modeling, right? Because I had all these pictures of me doing some modeling stuff from high school and all that on my little binder.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still having this high school mentality with all the pictures on the binder. So I'm like, this is cool. I'm going to put all these pictures collage on here, right? And so all that on there. And he's like, "Wait, did you model?" And I was like, "I used to do some modeling." And he's like, "Can you tutor me?" I was like, "Yeah."
So you weren't just a quiet girl, you was a smart girl too?
Yes, quiet and smart, right? And I had these crazy braids in my hair that were not upkept. I had pimples all over my face. So it's like one of those classic movies where it's like that, the ugly duckling, smart girl in a corner, and then all of a sudden, look at this face, you're right. And so it was like one of those classic fairy tale kind of stories in that regard. He asked me to tutor him. We met up in the library, and I'm so awkward. He's like, I'm sitting on the opposite end of the table, and I'm just like this.
Way across.
Yeah, way across. And I'm just like, "Okay, are you ready?" And he's like, why are you so like stiff? Like, why are you sitting that far? Like, what's going on? And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Oh, it is okay to like be a little bit closer.
Had you not been in a relationship before then?
I had had a high school boyfriend.
Yeah.
And I went to all white high school.
Okay.
So, okay, let's put this in some context. I went to all high school pretty much. There were some Black people there, of course, but it was different than going to all Black college. So
oh yeah, the culture shock,
right? And so
you said, where all this swag coming from?
Right. I don't even know what this means. Like, I don't know what that is. It's different in a more diverse or lack of diverse school. And so it was an adjustment all around. And so I had to get used to that because he introduced me to a whole new world of Black culture. I got my Black stripe going to Tuskegee and being in this relationship. So
And so how did it transition from you being his tutor to him tutoring you in some things?
That is good. That's good. I got schooled, okay, for years. No, we, after the tutoring, we were having conversations nearly daily. Like the first 3 days, it felt like I know him for my whole life.
Yeah.
And literally we were on the phone, sleeping on the phone, like those first 3 days, having all kinds of conversations. And it was like, oh my gosh, I've known you all my life. This is a fairy tale. I love you. You know, like, when are we getting married and having kids? Like, it was all
Were you
of
thinking
that.
this or were you saying this?
All of it.
Y'all were talking about marriage and stuff?
Not necessarily marriage, but it was definitely
Having
like, I like you. Like, I've known you my whole life. This is so easy.
Yeah.
Like, where have you been?
Yeah.
You know, this is right.
And listen, look, you know, these things happen too, man. You know, these things happen. You know, you get with somebody and the reality is you start dating them or you start talking to them and it's like, it's just smooth. You know what I mean? It's just smooth, you know, and, you know, Derek's got a charm about him. He is definitely a smooth talker and definitely a very slick salesman. So definitely, you know what, you know, having him there and he dropped some bars and stuff. We're all capable of that. It's not unusual to have that aspect, you know. And so, you know, it's peak, man. It's peak, you know. You know, that situation happened. But you know, when you first start talking to someone, it is feeling like, you know, it's brand new, it's fresh. You're talking on the phone all day. And when you're 19, let's be honest, man, we all been there. Your feet are dangling in the air. You're excited. Yippee, oh yay. You know what I mean? You know, I remember, you know, my first girl and just talking all the time, you know, just talking all the time and just vibing. And we talk for hours, man. We've been on the phone for hours, or we might even spend all day with each other. You know, at 19, that's what you do. You know what I mean? At 19, you spend all day talking, vibing, going out. Sometimes you spend the whole day. I remember sleeping around at my girl's house. I remember, you know what I mean? Like, at 19, there's a lot that you do. You know what I mean? So there's a lot that happens in that respect.
Right here in this
19
moment.
years old.
Yes.
Have you been all my life?
Exactly.
All the 19 years of my existence.
Exactly. All 19 years of my life. I miss you. I love you. This is what, you know. And so it was great. It's pure ecstasy. And so.
And just pause there. Probably what even drew her to him. I there's probably some overlapping. There's probably some overlapping in terms of. There's probably some overlapping when it comes to. There's probably some overlapping when it comes to how her father was in terms of maybe some of his characteristics as his. You know, there's more than likely probably some overlapping characteristics from the both of them. You know, so I think there's also some aspects to that. You know. You know, so I think we have to also be aware of that something about him probably was familiar. Not only was it familiar, his status, his good looks represented her feeling special, seen, wanted, valued, liked, loved. You know what I mean? She caught a big fish. Yeah, you know, I always say this about as well. That big fish thing, that be lying to yourself. That big fish where everyone goes, he or she's a big fish, and I think I've won the lottery. That can make you ignore all the red flags and actually pay attention to what you're seeing. Because you're thinking, I've caught myself a big fish. Caught myself a baddie. Right? Caught myself a sweet one. Okay? And so that would have given you some level of value. Yes, all the other women wanted him as well. That creates another value system in terms of, well, I'm getting the guy that everybody wants. Okay? I'm getting the guy that everybody wants. You know, and that also too can play a role. You know, that can play a role too. You know, yeah, I definitely feel he represented her dad in some sense. You know what I mean? Definitely. You know, and what I've seen as well with women that that usually were yearning for father figures, they tend to look for men that can teach them and school them and be wiser than them. They tend to really look for that elder energy in that man, right? So, you know, from what I've seen, what I've experienced, I tend to see women who are yearning for a father figure. They date men who carry that father figure energy, where they are either very wise, smart, intellectual. You know, they can teach you stuff, right? And they're willing to be in a place of learning, because actually what they're doing is they're actually replicating their relationship with their father. They want to be in a place where they learn. You know, so it gets repeated. I hear you, Sean, on that as well. As a father to a young teenage daughter, this is my big fear, and I'll never be okay as long as I live, worrying about her well-being. My prayers go out to all of you who have been through this. Shout out to you, Sean, as well. Thank you for bringing that as well, bro. It's a scary world out there, bro. Scary world out there. You ain't playing no lie. Okay.
So from there, we spent pretty much every day together. And about 1 month after just meeting, he asked me to be his girlfriend on Valentine's Day. So that was like our unofficial anniversary
Yeah.
for years. Yeah, he had this big old heart and he had his shirt off and he was like, "Will you be my girlfriend?"
He had his shirt off?
Yes, he was fine too. I was like, "Yes,
He's a
man,
good-looking
look
man.
at you." Everybody thought you were a nerd, but here you go.
That's what I'm about to say. What were people thinking? Here you were, this quiet little nerdy girl that you said that had pimples all over your face, but then you get
Doesn't match.
you get the sexy. What did he play football?
He
or
did
anything?
play football.
So you got the sexy jock. Like,
Yeah,
what was that about?
Fire. Like for me, that's what I was thinking. Like, listen, Danae, you have upgraded. You are coming into it, right?
For real.
And so I think a lot of people, I think there's a lot of hatred overall.
Yeah.
You know, most people didn't say a whole lot, but I think there's a lot of hatred about it. And then it's like it doesn't match because he is more outgoing
Yeah.
and personable. And I'm just like, you know, the literally awkward black girl that went to a all white high school. So there's a balance there.
What did he see in you? Because he had to have said that to you before. What did he see in you?
Well, okay. So he said that he liked that I was like smart, and of course he loved my eyes. And I feel like now, like looking back on it, I feel like there was a lot of compliments on like the physical attributes as opposed to more of the mental and emotional attributes that I had. But then again, you know, we were in love after 3 days. So seriously.
So you weren't chubby no more in college, huh?
I still had a little bit of chub. I was in the marching band for a little bit. So I had slimmed down a little bit there, but I still had a little bit of weight on me, but it was proportion. I feel like, you know,
it was enough for him to like her.
Enough. Listen, he did not complain and I wasn't complaining either. So there's that.
There's that. 3 days we in love.
Her energy here is beautiful, by the way. Her disposition here is very beautiful. You know, lovely to see her in this different light. I can't lie to you. You know, definitely very beautiful, very stunning to look at. You know, definitely a very beautiful person. You know, so I get it. You know, I mean, listen, it's also interesting as well. You know, that, you know, as you guys have pointed out, you know, you've got the jock with the nerd, and it's difficult because I'm going to tell you the truth. If I start seeing a huge gap between the looks between me and that person, I'm just going to be real with you. If I start questioning it, me personally, I've always been that way, but that could be insecurity. You know what I mean? It's hard to say that, but I'm just saying for me personally, I'm often looking for the, you know, the co-equal look. Now, she might be looking a little bit better than me. That's fine. But when I start seeing someone's in a major league and you're looking at me, I'm looking at you like, you might be, yeah, I don't know what you want. You know what I mean? Like, what do you want? Like, what do I have that you want? You know? And so sometimes this could happen, you know what I mean? Like, you know, this could be a thing. And of course, I've always said this as well, like, you don't want to date someone who you think is considerably better looking than you. Because if you think that, you're already in your insecurity place. Do you get what I'm saying to you? You're already in your insecure bag. If you think that you are literally catching the biggest fish of your life, you're probably already in your insecure phase because you already think the person's the biggest fish you ever caught in your entire life. Like, you know what I mean? Like you almost can't believe it's true. Right? We almost can't believe it's true. So I'm not saying that she did anything wrong here. I'm just saying personally, this is my own thought. I'm just saying it's my own thought. I'm not saying that she did anything wrong by choosing Derek because he was good looking. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that's just my personal thought. I'm not saying that people aren't good looking or pretty and da-da-da. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying don't go for those people. I'm just saying I like to have an equal level. You know what I mean? I like to have it fairly balanced. When it's unbalanced, I just feel like it's not going to work out well. You know what I mean? Y'all already think you're better looking than most men anyway. And then you add the fact that y'all be dating people that are ugly to you. And then you're going to drop he's ugly when you break up. I'm not about to have that. Sorry. So you know what? Let's go for someone who's on the same level as me. You know what I mean? Yeah, no. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, no. Sorry. Not going to do it. That's instant as well, that'll be it. Anyway, let's go continue because there's more to that story. And of course, I'm sure some people disagree, but hey, feel free.
We get married and have a bunch of kids.
Absolutely. Listen, I made him them peanut butter jelly sandwiches. Listen, you ain't going nowhere. White or wheat. I made white or wheat.
So
you like the crust on or what?
You trimmed the little crust around the side.
Sure did. Real story.
Cut it into a little heart and give it to him. It's our anniversary sandwich.
Exactly. I actually really did that. Believe it or not.
I know we all trying to do the best we can with whatever gesture we had at that moment.
Yes.
So I love it. I love that they call it puppy love.
Yes.
I love that moment. And so y'all were in college together. You were 19. Are y'all around the same age?
Yes, he was 19 as well. He's 5 months older than me.
5 months older than you. Y'all both 19. Y'all both in college. And when did it change from dating to engagement? How long did that take?
9 years.
9 years.
Yes, we got married 9 years later.
9 years later.
So it's a long time.
That's a long time. It makes sense when you start off at 19.
Yes.
It's like, so you got married around 28.
Yes.
About 28.
Yes,
that's how old I was when I got married. So you're 28 years old, and y'all were in a committed relationship. Were there any infidelity or cheating during that 9 years?
I can't really say commitment is a big word. So let's tone that down a little bit. Commitment is a big word.
We got to tone the word commitment down.
We do.
Y'all was in a relationship.
We got to tone it all the way down.
Listen to this,
we're going to tone it down to the nail.
We're going to call it a situationship.
Y'all was in a situation.
We was in a situationship for a long time.
So y'all never, after 3 days in love, y'all didn't say, let's make it official?
We were technically official, but there was a lot of on and offs agains, right, in that. So that's why I say when we talk about commitment, we got to tone it all the way down. We got to go back to the elementary level of the word and start at the beginning.
Yeah, start at the beginning.
Okay. And yes, there was commitment at times.
At times,
but there was a lot of on and off again. Okay, and through college and even after college, lots of on and off again. And so leading up to our marriage, we were actually off, right? We were actually off. We were living in North Carolina at the time, 2015, going into 2016, late 2016. We went our separate ways because there was other people involved, and there had already been other people involved, even in college, right?
Jesus Lord, hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. First and foremost, right? First and foremost, okay. I know some of you are arguing about whether you think Derek Jackson's better looking than her. Listen, I'm gonna keep it real. They're not in the same league, okay? Just okay. And maybe that's status wise as well, but I think it's the same. I think sometimes we can admit when women look better than men. I think we have to admit that he looked better than her. And it could be the confidence thing, whatever it is. It's all part of the good luck situation. Okay, all right. So, but on a real thing though, jokes aside, I think in the situation what she's describing here, 9 years they were on and off for 9 years, which means between 19 and 28 they're on and off. Now here's the biggest thing for me. My first thought that came to my head was, so there was no other bigger fish that came along and tried to take her away. That is an indication of what when we talk about looks, who's got the biggest pool? Do you know what I'm saying to you? Like who's got the biggest pool? Right. So when we talk about looks, confidence is also included. The biggest pull. She never had no one else who was big enough to pull as well, pull her aside in the 9 years. So no one else came along. Like no one else came and pulled her away. But he had plenty of women pulling him away. She is beautiful. That we're not disputing that. But her pull was different. It's just what it is, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like it is what it is, right? But in the 9 years, he had women out here. Not because I'm not trying to praise him. I'm literally just saying he had women out here and he was having other women. Okay, he was having other women. In 9 years. But he was out here.
Be specific. Other people, what you mean?
Other women. There was.
Did you ever have other guys that you were dating?
There was in college. There was a guy, Fabian, who I was talking.
Say the man's name. You done said the man's name. Fabian, mind his own business.
Listen,
watching the Dear Future White podcast.
He's not. He is no longer with us, unfortunately.
That's the only guy she ever had. That's the only other guy.
Okay. God rest his soul.
Yes, and so in college there was that, but it wasn't necessarily a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. I actually had used him to I used him to set Derek up because I was tired of him being with all these girls and catching him and going through his phone and watching him do all of his stuff with these girls. And I was like, and I was working with this guy and I was like, listen, I need you to help me to get him back. And I want to this up. We're gonna make it look like we're, a couple here and all this. So he helped me. He was, he did. And
so what you do? So how'd y'all set it up?
So we had the same car. We had the same type of car, which was a Subaru, one of those like Fast and Furious.
Now I want you to pay attention here because this is really important, right? Okay, this is really important. Okay, at this point, Derek has moved on with other gal, other women. Okay, other gal, other women. He's gone clear. So Derek, that's why I said there's nothing narcissistic about him. It's just he just played her. Like he had gone clear. He's with other women. The issue now is her. Okay? The issue now is her. Okay? And so what's happened now is that instead of focusing, okay, instead of focusing on herself and maybe, going about her business, maybe even find another man or find another love interest. And the reality is, let me be honest with you, she didn't find a better love interest. I don't want to be harsh about it, but I want to be very real. Nobody else was better than Derek Jackson. I know some of you don't want to admit that because, it's hard to admit that. But look, no one else is better than Derek Jackson. That's why she never found nobody else. Okay, all right? Because she would have at least had a fling or something, glad. But no, she focused on going after Derek Jackson because there was no other targets in her life. And so she ended up doubling down, going after Derek Jackson and chasing after him. But that's what your trauma can do to you. That's what your trauma can do to you. It can put you in a place where you forget what you're about and who you are. Okay? All right? And she put all her effort into what we call the big fish. She won a big fish and she wanted to be focused on the big fish. Okay? 9 years is a hell of a long time. Okay? 9 years is a hell of a long time to be on and off. Okay? So, I think, this situation points out to us again how she's even going to tell us now how she, set things up to try and chase him and go and get him. And it's like, whoa, that's wild. She formulated a plan with another guy. And by the way, he was consenting to make him jealous so that she could get him back. Lauren said he find you. He definitely is a good-looking guy. I can tell from the screen.
How you get one? You have no money growing.
Listen, my uncle is a car guy.
Okay.
And so he gave me a car because I was a straight A student. Clearly, look at my pimples and my straight A's, right? And so he gave me a car.
Subaru. She was fly on campus.
I had a 2000 Subaru Impreza, and it was blue. And we had the same car. His was just like 2 years.
You said you and Fabian.
Yeah, we had the same car. So I would set up times for us to go race, and we worked together. So clearly, I was at work when I wasn't in class. So there's that. And then I would set up times where I would be like let's meet up at this place, and I knew Derek would find out of it, and I wanted him to because I wanted him to pay.
You want him to be jealous?
I wanted him to. I've sat there and watched. Literally looked through his phone and watched him have sex with other girls on the phone. Really watched it, and that was soul crushing. This is well before we're married, but I've seen it multiple times, multiple girls, several. This is just in college. We're not talking.
Darling, see, some people are gonna call this behavior I was on a soul tie. I'm gonna call it, baby, you just wanted a man more than you wanted yourself. Right? Because all the warning signs are there. You even went through his phone and saw him having sex with other women. This is before you got married. Before you got married, you saw the madness. Okay? You had ample chances. This is one of the chances that you kept on seeing, you know, other women in the phone. Okay? This is nuts. All right? This is nuts. It's tight, you know.
Even about
Yeah,
marriage.
after that, yeah, we're gonna get there in a little bit. We're
Right?
gonna talk about straight college. How did we get here?
So there was a lot of anger and bitterness, and I never once really confronted him about it. I always kind of like sat on it and just buried it. Mostly, I feel like now I'm looking back on it, it was a fear of rejection
Yeah,
and abandonment.
because you
And
feel
then,
like if you spoke up, he gonna leave.
yeah, exactly. And I'm like, I don't want him to leave me. Like, you
Yeah.
know,
Now, here's the reality and truth, right? So, what she describes here is interesting because, and the reason why she put on the pedestal was because how fine he was. Listen, that's what I'm trying to tell you. The reason why I mentioned about the good looks because it's really important. How fine he is actually really important to the conversation because I talk about this all the time. The big fish complex is a very one of my first videos I ever did on YouTube. Second video, it's called "Snakes on a Plane." Okay, snakes on a plane. If as a man, I'm gonna tell you that as men, we are very much aware what kind of snake we are to a type of person, right? For not every man, but a lot of us who hunt know exactly what kind of snake we are, right? To some women, right? To some women, you are an anaconda, the type of snake that comes in and you are able to suffocate the individual person and suffocate them from their life and isolate them from the rest of the world. When you get involved with them, they lose their and they're just all on you, right? For some people, they are vipers, opportunistic type of. For other people, it's opportunistic, meaning that when I come into your life, I'm opportunistic. You know, I'm opportunistic, right? So how for me personally, like if I come in, maybe it's an opportunity, right? You see it as an opportunity, like, oh, I might not be able to do this again, so let me just do it once. Maybe he's a good looking person, or whatever. I'm an opportunist type of snake, right? Then there are your we call them your cobras. Your cobras that come into your life, they blind you from, you cannot see straight. You cannot see straight. When the cobras come in, the spitting cobra, you cannot see straight. You are blind. You understand? When they get into your life, right? When they get into your life, they blind you. Okay, all right. And then we have I can't remember, we have grass snakes. Women don't tend to play with grass snakes. Okay, grass snakes, they get used and abused because they know they're not poisonous. They don't bite. People don't play with grass. They just, you know what I mean? Like they're playthings. Okay, all right. And I can't remember what the other ones were. But the point I'm making is, right, one thing, it's not just, of course, it's not just how good looking he is. But again, I think people underestimate when you're young, especially, how much status and good looks plays a part in it. So it's like pretending as if it doesn't exist. It exists. Like at that young age, especially at that young age, well, him being a football star, being a good looking brother. The context is obviously she's moved from a white school to a black school, and he's the one that's he seems to be closer to the top of the food chain. It's definitely going to make him far more attractive, far more of a valuable possession to try and attain. Do you know what I'm saying to you? Right? So you're going to feel some insecurity because you feel like he's bigger and better than you. Right? So now in that situation with what she was describing, okay, of course, we know the trauma is what also makes it look askew. The trauma is what also connects to the toxicity and views it incorrectly, right? Of course, we've all been bamboozled when we're young. So, but it's a trauma that keeps us there for the longest. Like all of us have been stupid. All of us have been in a position where, for a girl or a guy, you've been stupid. Okay, Okay, when you've been stupid. But when you stay that long, it is to do with the trauma. That's what I'm trying to say to you. So the initial, everybody has been through a situation where there's been a good-looking guy, a good-looking girl that you wanted, and you've done some stupid stuff and lost your rag, right? Most people have been through that situation. But when you stay for a long time getting beaten up by certain situations, it's because trauma was there before and it's connected to the situation. The good looks is not what's keeping you there. That's why most of us, when we do it for a year or two, and then we get out and we're like, whew, we survived. Whew, boy, we survived, guys, and we're out, guys. That was an interesting time. But when you're able to stay for that amount of time she stayed for, it's because trauma was there already. That's what keeps you there for so long, because you're used to that level of dysfunction. You're used to your value being questioned. You're used to having to try and attain the person's affection and love, and that will keep on going because your trauma gives you the ability and the stamina to withstand it because you've always had it. So no, it's not just the looks. For most of us, it will be the looks. You stayed for a long time, you got dickmatized or you got pussmatized or whatever, okay? The pussoir was talking, and then that will make you stay for maybe a year, maybe 2, maybe 6 months, maybe 3 months. You know what I mean? Once the honeymoon phase deadens, you're like, what am I doing? This was dumb. What am I doing? But for people who stay longer, the reason why they stay longer oftentimes is because of the trauma. The trauma that they had in their childhood keeps them in that cycle for much longer than most of us would ever stay in a situation. You know what I mean? And then when you have your experience, you grow, you learn. And you're like, yeah, I won't have that again. Or this time I'm going to choose to enter it, but I'm going to have control over what I do. You know what I mean? So, but when you stay and you keep, yeah, trauma is existing there. So what she's describing is actually her trauma and how it showed up and how it connected with the individual in front of him, right? The individual in front of her, right? And how that made her stay the course and have stamina for it. Whereas we're all looking at going, this is not normal. Yeah, because it's her trauma making it normal. It's making the dysfunction functional. Yeah. That'd be doing the madness. You know.
So I have to just take this, but then at the same time, deep and resist its spitefulness. And so here goes up. And it worked.
Fabian. So how'd y'all set it up?
So we would be at work conspiring of us, right? We would be at work conspiring, and I'm coming over to your house, after this, or I'm gonna come out late and tell all girls, but we're gonna like link up and do this. So he can. I want him to see it. I want him to catch it. I want him to feel everything that I have been feeling with all these women, all these girls that he's been with. I want him to feel all of it, and I'm here for it.
And then what happened?
Well, years later, I was still dealing with the effects of it because I never really like confessed to setting him up until like way later. Like,
so you and Fabian never did nothing?
No.
Y'all ain't kiss? Y'all didn't do nothing?
No.
And so you just kept that lingering for years as if y'all really did something?
Yes. I wanted Derek to feel all of it.
And so what did he catch you doing? Just walking out of his apartment one day?
I honestly, I don't know what he really caught me doing. He never really told me what he caught me doing, but I know that he's at least seen us doing some racing. I know he's done seen us maybe like going to like a meetup point and all of that. So
he never confronted you about that and was like, I know you're cheating on me with Fabian.
Not in college. No, we're in marriage when we were dealing with unpacking that. And then he was like, you were cheating on your husband. And I was like, okay. Okay. Maybe I was emotionally cheating. Okay, I'll give you that. In college, 9 years before we ever got married. So I didn't cheat on my husband, but it was like, no, you cheated on your husband while we're in marriage. I'm like, no, you can't use that because we weren't married at the time. So
did you have an emotional affair with old Fabian? Did you like him?
No, I did not. I was dealing with some severe heartbreak, like the things that I seen Derek doing with other women at the time. And I was really attached to him. And then you had to think I was coming off of that rape trauma.
Yep.
And so I never dealt with, that I never talked to anybody about. And so there was a lot of turmoil that I was having. I wasn't thinking about, oh, Fabian is this guy that I'm trying to be with. I'm thinking, how am I going to get this guy back? But then at the same time, I don't want him to lose him.
Yep.
But
you want him to feel the pain, but don't lose him. Right.
And it's like, what?
But then you're not even speaking up about what you saw.
Exactly. Right. So these are all the issues that I brought into the relationship. Lack of communication.
And the fact of not speaking up was the same thing that you practiced when you were sexually assaulted.
Exactly. So it just carried over, and I didn't realize the power of not speaking about the rape trauma until well after the fact. And I'm like, wow, what did I get myself into? What did I get myself into? Right. And now I'm practicing toxicity. Right. I'm practicing toxic behavior and
By the way, this is all before she got married, you know. So this is kind of deep. You know, this is all before the, you know, before the marriage. So I don't know, you know. This is for the marriage. So you know what I mean? This is all before the marriage. This is mad. That this situation happened, you know, and you know, her situation where she's internalizing all the cheating that he did, and not actually speaking up about it. The fear of being rejected and the fear of being unloved and left behind is real. I think what's interesting about it is that she wanted to get revenge as well and let him know that she has some power in the relationship. She hadn't yet found her voice. And that's very difficult as well. And again, that's another thing that when it comes to SA, you can feel like your voice has been lost. But it's just, yeah, it's crazy. You know what I mean? I just think it's crazy. And this is all before the marriage, by the way.
cycles with holding things in, not talking about it, and then either being passive aggressive or just super aggressive,
Yeah.
but nothing in between, then he has no idea what's going on because he doesn't know what I'm freaking out about.
What you done need you.
Right.
What prompted you to start looking through his phone?
I would always get like a feeling, or he would touch me different, right? So after most rape victims are very sensitive to touch. And so any sign of him touching me, any type of like any different, I'm like, there has to be somebody else. There has to be,
You're
right?
talking about with a change of a touch.
With a change of a touch. There has to be, right? And so I would go snooping around because I'm a snooper. And when you shall find, that is a true biblical verse. So if you don't believe in the word of God, listen, I'll tell you, when you seek, you will find. And when you find, you have to know what to do.
And what's so bad about it? People will find something and then they won't do nothing about it.
Exactly.
Because they weren't prepared to leave.
And that was me.
You was like, I'm gonna find it, I'm gonna bust them. And then like, what you gonna do? Because you're not gonna even tell them that you busted
I
them.
did absolutely nothing. Sit there, cry. Okay, this is how I'm gonna get a little bit serious, right? Okay. I would seek and I would sit in closets and cry, and I would be in there wanting him to find me in the closet crying. And when he would come and find me in the closet crying, then I would say, you know, I'm just crying because I miss my dad. You know, I would blame it on something else. And they would always mostly be about my dad. Like, oh, I'm crying. But it's really because I just sat here and watched you have sex with, you know, or, you know, right? So.
No, Danae, there ain't no real people name. Is I don't want you throwing people's name out here.
Okay. So we're just gonna keep on going.
We're gonna make fake names up. Okay,
We're gonna making all kinds of fake names up.
Okay.
Right now. All fake. All fake names.
All fake names.
Okay. So
you watch him have sex with Sue.
Yeah, and Sue and, and Jane and Jade and Sheila. That's a fake name, right? I don't know.
That's a fake name. That's not a real person.
Seriously though, I would sit there and watch that, especially in college. I would literally sit in closets, or I would sit on the side of the dresser and be crying, and I would be there, and I would stay there in that space until he came back, from wherever he was, and he could find me, and then he can console me. But he didn't really know he was consoling me about his indiscretion as opposed to the lie that I told him. Right. And so all of that is toxic behavior. And I had to go back and really deal with that later on once I started to realize that, hey, Danae, you are not well. You are not okay. And really deal with why I was doing that and unpack it. So.
Man, that is tight, man. She just expressed something really powerful. So I wanted to give her a bit of time to listen so I could get it. I think what's really crazy about it is, you know, I think what's mad about it is, as she said herself, having to go through what she's gone through and get to a place now where I think what's so difficult about this situation I think what's difficult about the situation is that she's gone through quite a lot, right? And she's still going through a lot in that situation before they even get married. And she is having to deal with so many different toxic, bad aspects. And then when she gets to a point where she's explaining this part of the story, I feel like, sometimes revelations, revelations happen as you grow in time and as you grow in wisdom. Sometimes, sometimes you get to a place where the knowledge of the situation will come to you a little bit later. For her, maybe some parts, I can see that you guys talking about the laughing and stuff. I think sometimes what happens, and maybe they've both had maybe they've discussed it previously already. So I think that's probably why they're laughing a little bit behind the scenes and stuff. And maybe he feels uncomfortable. I don't know. Sometimes they say if you laugh, you will cry. You know what I mean? And maybe the crying part is not necessarily here because she's got a funny personality and she likes to be funny with it a little bit. So maybe that's why that situation's happening. Yeah, so there's a lot that's going on to that situation there. I just want to play a little bit part. I just want to listen quickly. There's a little bit part I want to go back just slightly because there was something that touched me and I can't remember what it was.
Indiscretion as opposed to the lie that I told him.
Right.
And so all of that is toxic behavior. And I had to go back and really deal with that later on once I started to realize that, hey, Janae, you are not well. You are not okay. And really deal with why I was doing that and unpack it. So.
Yeah. So like allowing all the stuff, my head tops. Yeah, let's get a haircut. But allowing all the stuff to go as it did, as she allowed him to misbehave and go and see other women, and she tried to fight to get him back, and she's moving mad to do it. So it, like I said, all of it is about validation. All of it is about being seen. All of it is about being heard. It's all about being able. I think all of it was about being able to have her voice in a sense in the relationship, because to a point where she goes to a point where she says, I hid myself in the closet crying, but it wasn't about my dad, it was about the situation with him. But instead of addressing it because she was afraid of losing him, but she's afraid of not being seen again. She's afraid of going back to obscurity. She's afraid of of being put in a position where, she's in the darkness again. She having to start all over again, having to be loved by somebody else again or love someone else again. It's a very tall order. I mean, these are normal fears that we normally have in relationships, but it's tremendously expounded upon when you've gone through some traumatic stuff, and when that person now represents your validation and represents your love for you, and represents your value, and represents your appreciation. When that person begins to take on different forms of value systems in your life, it can be very difficult to let that person go, and it can be very difficult to say something to it because you're afraid of losing that input and afraid of losing that injection from that person that gives you some validity, and makes you feel safe in some regard, right? Although it's unsafe because he was cheating on her. And that's political, she was unsafe because he was cheating on her. She was unsafe. She was uncovered. And so she wanted to be able to get him to change the way he was handling her due to the way he was dealing with other women, by trying to manipulate the situation, which is what she was talking about, the toxicity. Because what she had learned was not effective communication. She had not learned assertive communication where she can tell him what she felt, right? She was unable to tell him, hey, this is what I feel. Hey, this is what I'm hearing. Hey, this is what I don't like. She was unable to really say that because for her, the rejection and the loss of of the other person, the fear of losing them was greater than her testifying to her own feelings. And again, once more, she accommodates by putting him at the forefront before herself. Right? It's a continuous habit. Not valuing yourself.
And so on again, off again, situationship, commitment, lack thereof. 9 years, you go through this. And you said right before y'all got married or got engaged, y'all wasn't even together. Please help me understand that.
Yeah. So before we moved to Atlanta, we were off. We got off because he was dealing with some girls and things like that, and it was a issue. And at that point, I was very like hostile and all that towards him. Just like, I'm not gonna deal with this, and you're a, F boy and all these things,
Yeah.
right? I had some different kind of choice words and language at that time,
Mhm.
and then the Lord saved me my mouth. Thank God for deliverance.
I think
but
a lot
yeah.
of people give you a pass on whatever word you decide to use back then.
But no, at that time I had asked him, I was like, do you believe the things that you're saying, right? Because this is at the beginning of his career really like taking off. And I'm like, do you believe the things that you're saying? And it really caused a rift. And so we were off. And so that time that we were off, we were still messing
Because
around.
you questioned whether he believed that which he was sharing with the masses on avoiding F boys and that type of stuff. Y'all fell out because you asked him if he truly believed what he was saying.
I asked him that. Yes. It was a big thing, and we did fall out. Along with the fact that there was actually other girls at the time, and so it was just all too much. And so we end up ending that, and then we both end up moving to Atlanta, right? From there,
How y'all keep moving to the same place?
Soul tie. Listen, people underestimate the power of a soul tie.
Yep.
And it's a soul tie, and I had no idea what that was at the time, and neither did he, right? And
So it was.
Let's address this. Let's address this. Let's address this. Okay. Now she said about soul ties. Yeah. Okay. No. All right. Cool. So she says, obviously, look. First and foremost, obviously, she talks about how they broke up because there was more girls coming out, and also because he was moving mad, and she was asking him about she was questioning him about the fact that, do you believe what you're talking about, these F boys, do you believe it? And they fell out and they broke up. Okay, so the moment she questioned him on that was the end of the relationship. Notice that, right? Because what he wanted was for you to shut up, keep quiet, and follow his lead. And he had that in you. When you started breaking rank from that relationship and breaking rank from that role, you no longer were needed, because many women can play your role. You're only playing the role I want you to play because you keep quiet and you allow me to do what I need to do. And you're my safety net. So when I fall back on you. Now, you're going to hear later on, she actually helped with the business. She actually started hiring back staff and hiring people to come in, right? And come in and to come in and help his business grow. But the reality is, he's been fairly consistent. He's been a dog from day one, and it's the dog on day 2, and there's a dog at the very end. You understand? He's not changed the way he is. Okay. But the reality is, they broke up because what? He challenged. Okay. All right. She challenged his authority. And she had never done that before. She had always kept herself in line with how he wanted things to go. And so, unfortunately, you're showing some new energy, a new passion, a new power that I don't like. So you got to go. Okay? Out the window. You got to go. Now, what's key about this also is she mentioned about, because she mentioned about the fact that he moved and she moved and they end up moving to Atlanta, and it was soul ties. Nah. Yeah? Nah. Okay, sis? Nah. Yeah. It's not soul ties. Because if that's the case, then he's got how many girls did he sleep with? Did he move to every city those girls were going to? Did he follow all those girls that he went to? Okay, right? If he's soul tied, has he has he now been locked into all those other women and can't? That's not it. That's not it. Okay, we know that's not the truth. Okay, that is not it. And I love Christians, but I gotta tell you, it's not in the Word of God. It's never been in the Word of God. It's not even explained in the Word of God, right? Because if two shall become one, then a lot of us have got mad soul ties out here. Some of us, not all of us, some of us. You know what I mean? Right? And it's not. The reality is you built up a connection with somebody. The reality is you bonded with somebody in your trauma. The reality is you were unhealed when you got with a man who provided what you needed in your dysfunctionality to continue in your dysfunctionality. What you were in is that you were inducing yourself with the drug that keeps you addicted. If someone takes cocaine and they become addicted to cocaine, the reason being is because that drug is addictive. And so in your dysfunctionality, that person has become your drug. They've become your medicine you take in order to medicate yourself to get through life. And until you begin to heal, you'll realize it's got nothing to do with trauma bonding. Sorry, not it's got nothing to do with soul ties. None at all. None. Because soul ties don't exist. Okay. Now, can we bond? Yes. And do we bond through our soul? Yes, but it's not a soul tie. Okay. All right. It's not a soul tie. The reality is there are attachment issues, there are traumas, there are toxicities that are involved, and these make us view the other person as I can live without you. You know what I mean? Can live. You know what I mean? So and the reality is, for her, and thank you, Sean. The reality is her soul tie is just it's an obsession, and it's an obsession because of what she'd gone through. Right, her soul tie is because of what she had gone through. All right, what she had gone through, and so in these instances, right, what we're seeing is not a soul tie; it is her unhealing showing up itself in a connection with somebody. And when she gets healed, she'll realize that connection don't exist no more. When you know better, you do better. When you believe better, you do better. Okay, when you get that knowledge, it begins to shift and change the way that you attach yourself to things and to people. Okay, right? It's not a soul tie. All right. The reality is, a lot of people are bonding with people in their trauma, and that is causing a strong bond to take place that is built on fragility and built on, so long as you're sick and so long as you're ill, this will work for you. You know what I mean? Like you are on a drug fend, and you are looking for your next fix. Okay, you're looking for your next fix. Okay, yeah. So that's usually what happens, right? And Link said not to be crass, but it's to say, hypnosis by a certain fleshy part of the body. And when you bring sex into it, what people don't realize is the chemical exchange that happens. Not exchange, sorry, the chemical induction that happens. Serotonin, oxytocin, and dopamine that are released. Dopamine is the good feeling that releases. Okay, the dopamine is released with a good feeling. Okay, all right, and then we have what we call serotonin, which helps with the sleep. When you get a good session in, those of you who are married and don't fornicate before, you get a good sleep after serotonin kicks in. You feel tired, you want to stretch your body and want to just curl up. You understand? And then the oxytocin is what brings the bond. It's a chemical bond, right? The oxytocin is what drives people to be wanting to draw near to someone, right? Wanting to be next to somebody, right? And that's the chemicals that are released. Now, other chemicals are released during sex. That's what makes it so addictive, because the release of it makes people be able to maneuver in a particular way. Now, of course, if you're in a dysfunction and you're dysfunctional, right? Sex is often the glue that ties people into relationships. Look, if she had stopped having sex with him, she might have been all right, but she kept on having sex with him. Okay, right? If she had stopped having sex with him, she might have been all right. But the reality is she kept having sex with him. So when you're having consistent sex with somebody, you're going to keep getting drawn to them. Now, that's not the only reason why people get drawn to people, but I'm just kind of making it a position here, right? That sex is what can cause the issues. Okay.
It's like, who would move there first? Did you find yourself following after him, or just
no? So we had actually planned to move there prior to, because we were living in Raleigh, North Carolina at the time. We had already planned to move there, but there was so much. I had caught him with some other girls. The girl actually reached out to me, sent me their conversations and their pictures and all this stuff, and I was freaking out on him. And then we're like, okay, this has to end. So we had already planned to move.
This time you were
it was
27,
20? Yeah, so 25. All
right, so y'all lived in Raleigh around that time, moved to Atlanta.
Yeah, we moved to Atlanta, and I had already transferred jobs. I made the move, so it was.
Y'all gonna move together at first,
right?
Even though y'all not in a committed. We're gonna use that word loosely again. Were y'all in the?
We were in technically a committed relationship when we were in Raleigh, North Carolina, living together.
When y'all was making a plan to move together,
right? When we were making a plan to move together, we were moving together like as a unit,
as a couple.
But we ended up falling out before then, and so while the plans were still on to move, I had already transferred jobs. You know, he already had whatever he had going on, and so made the move. My mom came down and she helped me drive down to Atlanta. I had my own little space. Anyway, we were still engaging sexually, even though we were off, right? And so
there we go. Okay, all right, there we go. Right. So see what she's saying now. All right. Look, as she described herself, right? She's describing these actions that are taking place. Okay. All right. Now, she said obviously they started just discussing about moving together to Atlanta. You know, they were talking again. They weren't really together. Technically, what's the technically? Technically, you were together or not together, right? Do you know what I mean? Right? I would, you know, how we were together or not together, which is that you probably weren't that way together, and then you break up before you have to move, and so you move to Atlanta anyway. But then what? You continue to engage sexually, right? Which means yeah, exactly. Haitian Empress. I don't think they ever stopped having sex. That's the issue. Sex was the way to begin to speak, but the thing is, like I said, because of the length of time, most people, the high of sex kind of wears off after like 2 years, you know, and you start to see straight, and you're like, this is dumb, right? After 2 years, it kind of wears off, and you kind of like can see the person for what it is, right? But when there's trauma involved, the sex involved with toxicity is different. It holds you there for much longer than you need to be, way much longer, and you lose so much time, right? So much. Why? Because the action of sex is a form of intimacy. It's an act of nakedness and vulnerability. It's an act of giving myself over to somebody, to something, right? It is one of the most vulnerable acts to ever do. And so when you give yourself over to somebody like that, you know, and you open yourself up in that space, you're connecting on a different level to that person on a sexual level. And it's a big thing, because again, the chemical rush, the chemical infusion is also going to make it very hard to leave it alone, especially if there's rewards at the end of the knacking. Okay. All right. Especially if at the end of the knacking, there's some good rewards. Okay. Yeah. Good rewards.
it was in this time where there was a lineup of us. We was passing each other on the stairway in and out.
No, y'all wasn't. No, y'all was not passing
you think this is a game.
You were not passing each other on the stairway. No, y'all was.
We were passing each other on the stairway. Like, this is my shift from this time to this time. So, you know, I was a willing participant in that. And it's like, I can laugh about it now, but it's really sad, you know, to like, what space do you have to be in to accept that? And so I dealt with it already, so I can laugh about it now. And it's funny, but it's like,
right? You look back at your old stuff and laugh.
I'm just like, what? You know, honestly, it was, you know, I'm coming over at this time. I know such be rolling through about, you know, hour and a half later. And sometimes we went a little bit longer. So literally passing each other on the stairs, like out the door. All right, have fun, you know, your shift, you know. And
we're in a position now where we're willing to accept that not only are we going to share this man, we're going to share him. Not only are we not going to be with this man, we're going to share him. We're going to share him with other women. At this point, we can't blame Derrick Jackson. And I mean, at this point, Derrick Jackson's not the only one in this madness. Like, she is, without there being another suit. And you know what usually happens? A lot of people get the option of having somebody else. You know, a lot of people get the option of having someone else distract them. That is what can help take them away, right? A lot of people can have the distraction of somebody coming in and taking them away from their main person, and then they get time to kind of see the light for what it is. But she had a constant tap-in with Derrick Jackson. So there was no time to kind of see something else because she's always been seeing Derrick Jackson. And he's the biggest thing she's had since then. And he's continually growing at that point. His business was growing. His status was growing. He's becoming more and more of a star. And it's harder to say no and let go because it's like, I've worked so hard. What have I put into this person? You know what I mean? Am I just going to let it go? You know, like the shame ain't going to come up because all you're thinking about is the reward. Right? Now, what we have to understand is how sex taps into your emotions. What we need to understand is how sex taps into your mental, right? How the intimacy of me entering you can make you feel connected to me. You do it enough times, you're going to feel connected, right? You do it enough times, you're going to feel some type of way. And because obviously they've got a history there of actually being in a relationship, it can be very difficult to wean yourself off and say, I'm not involved. And also another thing, people can say this, and people don't realize too, sometimes you don't want to add to your body count. You want to talk about that? Sometimes you don't want to add to your body count. Sometimes you don't want your body count to increase. Sometimes if you're scared that if my body count increases, I might as well stay with him because my body count can't increase. You understand? I might as well at least get a piping from him. I'm still on 1. It's not 2. It's not 3. You know what I mean? If it's just him, then, you know, my number stays low. That's also consideration too. You know? It's a big thing, man. It's a big, big thing.
And literally, and so there was a lot of people involved at that time. We weren't in a relationship, so all the people that like committed relationships. So I was just on the rotation at the time, and I ended up getting pregnant with our first child. And it was in that I was like, okay, Danae, you got to figure out what you're doing with your life. You are whole pregnant, and you can't get rid of this child because I had already had 3 abortions before, and the Lord had already dealt with me. And I was like, Lord, if you save me from this, I'm not going to ever do this again. Got pregnant. I was like,
I will exalt you, yes. I will exalt you. I will exalt you. You are my God. Oh my God. My hiding place, my safe refuge, my treasure, Lord, you are. My strength and my shield, most anointed one. That note was off, but don't worry about that. My God, what are we talking about here? I heard it the first time, but when I heard it the second time, it's even more matter. First of all, we're on rotation. No. Let's do this. Where is the personal sense of agency? We're on rotation, which means to get pregnant 3 times or to have an abortion 3 times, the child has gone to some level of term. This is not plan B. Yeah, that's what I'm saying to you. Plan B, what we call plan B in UK, meaning a tablet you take after morning after pill, right? So 3 blood clot times blood. Sorry, I shouldn't say blood clot. Sorry, apologies. 3 times. 3 times before Why are we not wrapping up when we know for sure we're on rotation? She's lucky she didn't get no dirty disease. Because if she knows she's sharing him with other people and you're not wrapping up, what made you not want to wrap up? What made you not want to wrap up, please? Why are we not taking precautions? Why are we not taking condoms? Why are we not taking condoms? Huh? Why are we not taking condoms? Ah, this is nuts. Damn. So I wonder why they had 3 abortions. You get what I'm saying to you? Because the first after that, I get it. She chose. She's gonna tell us the story why. But I'm just saying, why now did she choose to have 3 abortions? What made sense that now? What made sense in the first 3 that she didn't want to keep it?
Can't go back on my word, Lord. I don't want you to kill me.
Yeah.
You know, but so I started, okay, I got to figure out what I'm doing with my life. And then I started getting a little bit more serious. Like, what are we doing? He was still doing, you know, stuff with the other girls. I knew about it. So I did still participate in some sexual activity and all that, knowing that he was with other girls. I was a willing participant. But it did start to take a toll on me mentally and emotionally because I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
Right. So there was a lot of women involved in that time. And it was in that time that I had a conversation with his mom. And I was like, listen, I don't have another 7 years to give him. I'm trying to figure this out. And like, I want to be with him. I want to do this, but I don't have another 7 years to give him. So he has to figure out what he wants to do. And then shortly after that, I'm getting a call from my mom, and she's like, I just got a call from Derek asking me for your hand in marriage. I thought you were not in a relationship. I was like, we're not. You know, we're doing this co-parenting thing, you know. And she's like, okay, so what are you going to do? And so I actually knew about the engagement, which she didn't know about, but I actually knew about the engagement and all that because my mom told me about it. She was asking me these questions because she's like, I thought you weren't in a relationship. And I'm like, we're not. You know, and so I had to figure out, okay, he's being serious. He called my mom.
Does that make you excited?
Yo, this is wild, cuz I'm really deep in it, you know. We're really deep in this situation, you know. That she was really out here in them with old boy and 3 abortions. I'm not even vexed. Okay, that's shocking, but it's like we're still having sex, we get pregnant, we're still having sex, and there's still other women involved. Can I be honest with you? I'm not gonna lie to you. She's her own villain. I'll be honest with you. I know she's gone for trauma and everything, but she's her own villain. Okay? She's her own villain. I'm sorry. She's her own villain. Because the amount of behavior that he's continued from beginning of the relationship till now, when he decides to marry you, right? When he decides to marry you, at that point, when he wants to marry you, you have to ask yourself the question, is he going to change? He isn't going to change. He's been doing the same thing all the time. So why are we thinking it's going to change now? You know what I mean? And I'm sure she didn't tell all the information to her mother. That's the reason why her mother probably, wasn't as strong as she wanted to be on a situation, because, this has been going on for years. And the mother said, I thought you weren't together. So the fact that he's asking to be married, I'm sure she didn't tell her mother everything. That's the reason why. All right. Like, whew. This is nuts. So now she's in a situation where old boy's asking for hand in marriage. He ain't gonna change. Why should he? He's been having his cake and eating it. He's been dating. He's been having sex with other women. You've even become part of the rotation, and now he wants to marry you. Oh, she's a villain to her own story. She's not a villain in general. She's a villain to her own story. I talk about this all the time about treason. A lot of people commit treason in their own life. You've become your own worst enemy. You've betrayed yourself. That's what I mean by that, right? So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, what is going on? You see what I'm saying to you? Like, so it's like, I'm looking at her and I'm going, okay, but sis, so he's been the way he's been. He's been the way he's been. So he's a prick, but he's always been a prick. And he's been a prick since the beginning. The fact that he's now trying to get her to marry, after you become part of the rotation, God have mercy. I wonder if you had a discussion about it.
It did. I was so excited because I'm like, he called my mom. My mom and him, like, they don't
mess with each other.
No. And so he humbled himself. He called my mom and asked for my hand. I mean, she's serious about me. It's meant to be. Absolutely. So excited. And so, yes, I was so excited about it. Yes, he called my mom. You don't even know what that means, right? He called my mom. They don't even get along, first off, like that. So that meant a lot.
Why didn't they get along?
I left my phone in his car when I first met him, and he called her, and that conversation didn't go well. So ever since then, it's just been like a battle between them, and I've kind of been in the middle of it, and it created a lot of anxiety in a relationship. So I actually.
That's nuts. That's nuts. So now he's called the mom, obviously wanted to arrange for her to marry, but the first conversation they ever had, the mom fell out with him. The signs are too many. The signs are too many. There are too many signs. Even at the very beginning, That's very true. I have to admit, I hear what you're saying, Jay. Yeah, I hear you. That is a reality too. People get lost in the delusion. Yeah, it's true. People get lost in the delusion. Yeah. Actually makes people lost in the delusion. Bruh. Yeah, that's tight, bro. So like she's in a situation where, again, going back to my original statement about the big fish has come back to fish it. The big fish has come back into her pond and is saying now, hey, look, I think it's a me and you thing. And it's like she's excited again about the situation. There's a level of delusion. There's a level of delusion. At the time, there was a level of delusion, right? Because there's this want to win. I like that way you put it, the want to win. But she's now put herself in a situation where the big fish is asked her and she's excited about it because, again, the healing hasn't taken place. So she's still seeing the big fish as a big fish rather than looking at most of the inadequacies and the fallibilities of this big fish. and the fact that this big fish has no care in the world for her. You know? Because this sad, baby. This sad.
I actually isolated from my family a little bit and just kind of was doing my thing, being grown and being involved with his family mostly.
And so you get a tip that he's going to propose. How did he propose?
All of our family was there. All his family was there. My mom and my brother flew in, and we had like a little housewarming party because we had just moved into a new house. And
so y'all got back together then. So after the tip off, how did he come back around and say, hey, can we be back together?
So my lease was up in my apartment, and so we were actually technically still off, but I didn't have anywhere. I'm like, if my lease is up, I'm not about to renew it, so I'm either going back to Denver or I'm coming to stay with you. I want you to be here for the baby's birth, and it was right around the time that she was going to be born, so we need to figure this out. So I ended up moving in basically with him.
So again, another opportunity for him to get close. Now, I'm not saying that she had to run away and not let him see the kid. I'm saying that she, again, puts herself in a situation where she has to she has to be right next to him again. So now there's a situation with a baby. I don't want you to miss out on the baby, and my lease is up. So guess what? Either I'm going to move back to Denver or I'm going to move in with you. Why was that the option? Why is moving in with him, who is sleeping with other women and has no real care for you, the option? You get me? Sis. You know what I mean? That's the reality. So she was
in the house that we was in, and officially said, like, we're back together. Like, so our conversation, like, yes, we're doing it. We're together. So that's how that happened. And then I got the call and I was like, okay, we're together. And we're rolling with that. And it felt great. I was all on board with it. I was excited. Oh, mama.
You called your mama.
What?
Humility.
Right. And so that's how that happened. And so all of our family came in and we were celebrating this housewarming because we just moved into this new house. So the plot was.
And do you see how low the bar is? Remember we talked about the value system, how low the bar is. All right. The bar has been low. Okay. And she made it low. Okay. Because of what she had been through, that she's now saying, well, he called my mom. Must be something amazing. The bar is so low that even just that little movement of him calling the mom has made it exciting. When the reality is he's been trash. The reality of the situation is he's been trash. The reality of the situation is he hasn't been good. The reality of the situation is he's been treating her badly. The reality of the situation is he's been doing whatever he wants to do. So the bar is really low. The fact the bar is in hell, okay, and Satan used it as a pull-up bar in hell. Okay, that's how bad the bar is. Okay, right? That's how bad the bar is. Okay, I don't know about that, Tara. I don't know if I can say he willingly got her pregnant. Can't lie to you. I'm not sure whose side it is, because he's not wearing protection. She's not making him wear protection. They have a kid. I don't know if he's intentionally to make her pregnant. I'm not putting the blame on her like as if she's bad. I'm saying, but you got to protect yourself. You know what I mean? You got to protect yourself. Like, you've had 3 abortions now, so like this guy is not treating you right. That's why we're saying that she has to protect herself. So if you've had 3 abortions, it means you've had 3 close encounters. You don't want to put yourself in the 4th time. Like, how you know what I'm saying? Like, if he's not gonna look, you're not getting back with him, or you're not back together yet. You got to protect you. That's what I'm talking about. Because remember, it's her speaking, not Derek. If Derek was talking, I would talk about from his perspective, but we're talking from her perspective. Okay, so that's why we're saying that. Okay, so yes, we know that they could have worn protection. You know, so I think both parties are involved in this. So I'm not gonna say, you know, she did it or he did it. You know what I mean? So either way, I'm not gonna be on either side. All I know is that both parties were stupid enough not to protect themselves. So we're now in that situation. But no, yeah, like her situation here, the whole kid situation, she didn't need to be in that situation now. You know, again, you know, but Haitian, we don't know. We only know about her situation. I think we need to stick to what situation we know. If we don't know he hasn't had any pregnancies elsewhere, I don't think we should bring information which is not existing into the situation. So by going on what we've gone by, we only know that these two are having sex and she's the one that's had 3 abortions. Now, there may have been more abortions from other women. There probably is. And if there's more abortions, he's not intentionally trying to trap her then. You know what I mean? But either way, because we're talking from her perspective, she has to take accountability for the fact that she's in a situation 3 times and then being a 4th. You know? Right? Now, in that situation, in that aspect, why put yourself in a situation and then go about also then putting yourself in a situation where you have to then go and live with him? You know what I mean? Why wouldn't you want to do that to yourself? Why would you want to do that to yourself? I wouldn't want to do that to myself. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't do that to myself, you know? So, you know, that's what I'm saying about accountability for yourself, you know? But yeah.
Oh, we're celebrating the housewarming, but everybody else knew, hey, engagement, but little I knew too. And so he had the song play, and it was like right before midnight, and it came on, and he gets down on one knee and he's like proposing to me, and I'm like,
it was all this pain I went through.
Yes,
it was
paying off.
Yeah, it's paying off. You know, weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning.
All the
thought
joy.
that was your morning.
All the joy. Do you know the bragging that I did?
My man.
Mrs. Jackson. Okay, Mrs. Jackson. Okay, if you're nasty. That was my thought.
That's your thought
right? Listen, I got saved. You know.
Miss Jackson, if you're nasty.
But yeah, the bragging that I did, right? And so it was great. Like, it was like everything is coming. I'm having a family now. I'm gonna be married. I had our baby already. She was 2 months by the time that happened, and she had this little "Will you marry me?"
So when he proposed, you already had the child.
Yeah, I had our baby. She was 2 months old. He had her in this little "Will you marry me?" bib. It was great. Like, everything was involved, and it was great. I loved it, every aspect of it. And it's like, this is everything I wanted and been asking for and dreaming of my whole life. And just through this relationship, and I won out of all these women.
You about to say another word?
The Lord.
Well, there we go, guys. There we go. Like you said, Jay, she was trying to win. This is the reality. She was trying to win. All right? She was trying to win. There you go. Jay said it perfectly. Proven point. She tried to win. And so this is what we're saying about this situation, that the accountability she has to take from her perspective. We understand that she comes from a broken perspective and a broken point, but it doesn't erase your accountability. You know what I mean? So in this instance, what's happened is, due to wanting to prove that she can win, and like we said in the very beginning, proving that she is worthy of your love and your care, she outbeat all the other women. Right? She outbeat all the other women. So in this instance, she's won. For her, she's won. She's beat all the other women. She showed other women that, hey, y'all can have him, but I'm going to have him last. I'm going to make sure I win him over, right? So, of course, he doesn't need to, okay? He doesn't need to try and lie to her. That doesn't need to try and... Tyrus, he's not gaslit her with a ring at all. Not even close. She has willingly accepted and wanted this to happen. And so she's here. Like she said, hey, look, you know, I got the ring now. I got Miss Jackson last name. You know, I got the kid now. You know, I got the baby with the thing saying, you know, the marriage thing, whatever. You don't need to. And the reason why I'm saying, Tara, it's not the gaslight, is because I think this is what happens. And I'm trying to, and this is why I said about the warning. We need to stop looking at other people. Like, we want to make men the villain so bad, and he is a villain. Don't get it twisted. But if you realize that you are walking into a trap, and then you walk into a trap, what do you want me to do about it? You want me to now say, well, because he's a no, if you walk into a trap, then you are walking into a trap. What can we do? You want to walk into a trap, so you have to be accountable for you. Okay, so I'm not saying that she hasn't been accountable. I'm just saying we can't take away from the fact, because remember, we're looking at her view. He hasn't come out with a video yet, so I don't know. You know what I mean? But you know, from her perspective, she walked into a situation knowingly. She walked in, had pregnancies, had abortions, unfortunately, then got pregnant, kept it. And I didn't say that she's blamed Jared Jackson. I'm talking about my audience. And then, you know, like, yo, then, you know, she has knowingly walked into a situation. So, yeah, so it's unfortunate, but the reality is she's literally walked into her thing. Yeah, I didn't say that. You guys need to listen to me very carefully. I didn't say she hadn't taken any accountability. I said this is why I put the video as warning. I was actually talking to my audience. This is why I said put it as warning. Yeah. We know that already, Tyra, that he's partly responsible, but he's not the one that's talking. She is. So when you're asking why we're saying what we're saying, it's like you're trying to put the thing onto Derek. There's nothing to put onto Derek. Derek's not here. She's talking and she's given her perspective. So we're saying that there's things that she is doing. Okay, we're saying things that we're doing. All right, it's not that you disagree with me. We actually agree on a lot more stuff. I'm saying that this shifting needs to stop, because if you don't, what happens is you end up trying to think about the other person, whether the person wanted to cheat on you, whatever they did what they wanted to do. But what are you going to do? Okay, that's what we're saying. What are you going to do? So I'm making it clear for people, because I think some people are making some really great points. Like, for instance, when Jay was saying about how she wanted to win, it's like, yeah, you know, but you know what I mean? So anyway, but yeah, let's continue.
Lord is bridling my tongue. I am. He is bridling my tongue. I won out of all these women, so here I am. You know, so it almost gave me like this false sense of confidence and accomplishment, right?
Yeah.
And so, but you couldn't tell me that at the time. So,
and at the time, we put this in perspective. You're about what, 28,
yeah.
27?
Yeah, I was like, right. I had just celebrated my 28th birthday.
Yeah, and so you're 28 years old, and then so now, how long did it take from "Will you marry me" to "I do"?
It was right at a year. So we got married January 13th, 2018. And that was a long year before marriage. There's a lot of stuff that went on in there. We tried some marital counseling. We did not finish that. There was, you know.
You said premarital counseling?
Premarital counseling.
Man, how we getting premarital counseling? We don't finish the premarital counseling. How are you the premarital counseling? We don't, oh, man. How are we gonna get the how are we gonna be doing the premarital counseling but not finishing? How? Damn. Right? What is the point of even starting if we're not gonna finish it? See, by not finishing it, that's where all the answers are. Okay, that's where all the answers lie. In the premarital counseling, that's where all the answers are. Okay, in the premarital counseling, that would have been where the answers lie. They would have told you this relationship ain't good for nobody. This ain't it. This ain't working. This y'all need to stop. You know, a voice that would have come in and spoke some reason and some truth would have been able to have this situation and said, hey, this ain't it. But like she said, she wouldn't have listened anyway. So, you know, she said that herself, right? Yeah. It's tight. Whew. Baby, avoiding the marital counseling, that's important, you know. That is wild.
Y'all didn't finish our premarital counseling?
No.
Why not?
There was a lot of issues that arose. So as we were doing the counseling, I started to come out with a lot of the hurt that I was hiding from college days. I started to come out with that and how it made me feel. And it was a lot, I think, for him to handle
He
all
was
of that.
like, oh my
These are
God, how you
things,
know all this stuff?
right?
He said, I
How do you
put a wool over your
know?
eyes.
Right? How did you know? But then also, like, why are you just now telling me
And
about
you still
this?
here?
Right.
Like, you know all that, you still
Right. And so it was a lot for me to just like be like, and you did this and you did that. And I feel like I did do a lot of shame and blaming in communicating all the things I had been holding on to. So it was a lot for him to handle in that time. But anyway, it was all of that. He was like, I'm not doing this anymore. So we never finished. And then and then here we go in the marriage. So
So you said he said I'm not gonna finish marriage counseling, but we're gonna continue going on with the wedding.
It was looking a little bleak at first, right? Because at that time I went back to the gym and started working out, and then I had a male trainer. And so then
Hold on a minute. Wait, whoa. So premarital counseling, he ends it because he don't like the fact that he's getting blamed. Look, let's keep it real, right? He don't like the fact there's light being shed on his behavior. He don't like that. And because of the behavior because of the lights being shone on his behavior, and because obviously there's quite a lot of it, because she's exposing all of it, all the pain and hurt, it's too much. Now, if it's too much, I don't expect you guys to go anywhere near a marriage. Yeah? If it's too much, I don't expect you to go anywhere near a marriage. Okay? So again, once more, how we still see that this, when people start saying, this is your opportunity. This is I don't even want to say God. I want to say this is just life. You're cheating, you're moving mad. Eventually it's going to come. So now all the things that he's been doing have come up to the surface. All the things she's experienced as a kid has come up to the surface. All of it's come up, right? And he's realizing it's too heavy. At this point, why are we not walking away? And then we're going to tell us the story, which is really important. Why are we not walking away? Why are we not walking away? What is causing us not to walk away once more again? Okay, why are we not walking away again? And this is why I'm saying about the accountability, and not accountability in her video, but as people in general, that we have to look at why we're doing what we're doing. Do you get me? Why we're doing what we're doing. Let's listen to what she's going to say.
At the time that we're going through premarital counseling, then it's like, oh, you're talking to your male trainer, and you're having a relationship with him. You're trying to hide it from me. And I'm like, I'm all these things. And so I'm like, I'm not trying to hide this from you. Like you see him, we go to the same gym. You can have a conversation with him. His wife is a trainer at the gym too. Maybe I should ask for his wife to, like, I didn't even choose the trainer, but basically it became an issue. And so then that became the focus, as opposed to like me having a male trainer, and what I'm doing over here became the focus of the conversation.
And be clear, did you have anything inappropriate with the trainer?
I did not.
And did he ever like say, well, you need to have a female trainer then?
He did not, but I took it upon myself. I went to the little desk and was like, hey, I need to change trainers. And then the trainer was like, well, did I do something wrong? Whatever. Can we have a conversation? I was like, there's nothing that you did wrong. It's just, I got to do what I need to do, and I need a woman. And so then I got another trainer, Serena, and she got my whole life together after that. But yes, that became the focus. There was a lot of issues that came from that. And
Brother Jackson said, you're not about to get me played. Brother Jackson said, you're not about to get me played. I know this game. He said, I know these brothers who are fitness instructors. I know how quickly they've been moving mad. That's what he said. I ain't going to get played by my own game. I'm going to take my own advice. You ain't about to train with a guy. Yeah, go get a female trainer. But he didn't even say go and get a female trainer. He just told her, listen, I don't like that. He told her, he had a big issue with the male trainer. But he said basically, okay, all right, you definitely know what it is. Okay, you ain't gonna play with a male trainer. Okay, all right, so go get that train, baby. Okay, go get that train, because I know the game. I am the game. I've been playing the game. I will not get played by the game. Okay, all right. So he said, listen, if you're gonna go in, you're gonna go in with a woman. You ain't gonna go. Well, he didn't even say that, but you ain't gonna go with a man. That's it. You know, so yeah, and maybe that would have saved her life if he had done that. Um, I don't remember. Were they doing threesomes as well? I don't remember. Were they doing I don't remember. Were they doing threesomes? Oh, the mercy! They were doing everything, weren't they?
Pretty much triggered the toxic behavior in him. Pretty much triggered the toxic behavior in him to where now we have all these things going on in our marriage. So,
such as you said, triggered what? You said that triggered what? To accuse you of infidelity, to give him a pass to cheat on you.
Essentially, like so me bringing up all these things and then him feeling or accusing me of having this relationship with the trainer, which I did not have, but allowed him basically like, okay, I'm being like in his mind, I'm being disrespectful, I'm being unappreciative. Like he's done all this changing and actually asked for me to marry him, and here I go, just bringing up all this stuff from the past, And
would you say he was on his best behavior during that time?
Now, before she answers that question, this is where his manipulation is, right? Because he knows at this point in time, okay, all right, and she knows that he knows at this particular time that it was never about it was never about the trainer. It was more about the fact that he wants to create carnage because he is in a spotlight for being a bad behaved person, right? And instead of facing it, he creates carnage, right? So now he's creating carnage by saying, the male trainer is an issue, you're ungrateful, you're this, you're that. Now his carnage is beginning because he's losing control. Now she's gaining a voice. Now she's actually speaking up. Now she's actually saying things affect her. She's no longer playing the role that he had her play. So he's trying to put her back in her place. You know what I mean? So he's using another tactic now, because beforehand he didn't have to fight too tough. She just do whatever he wanted. He wouldn't have to say anything manipulative. He wouldn't have to get manipulated in his behavior. All right. So now what she's starting to speak up. Now she's done the therapy, and she's beginning to have a voice and begin to say, these things affect me. These things are not liking me. Now, okay, all right. Now this tells me that, okay, cool. He's gonna start the chaos. I'm gonna create the chaos. So that will put you back in your place to want to what? Chase after me. I'm chasing after you, no matter what I have to do. I need you more and more. You know what I mean? Like, to now I'm creating chaos. So you're going to chase after me, because it's going to put you back in a position where you're like, well, things ain't good again. So I need to earn his goodness and his good books. So it puts you in a place where you're being back to, I don't want to say submissive, but I want to put you in a place where you're chasing after something once more again, because you've put yourself in that place, right? Yes, that's a great point, Jay. Love that point. Keep her broken so he can be her savior every single time. Okay. All right. So now the manipulation has fully started, because beforehand she wouldn't speak. Now she's starting to speak up. Yeah, we need you back in that same place because you're doing too much. Okay. All right. You need to be back in your position. You need to back where you are. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna do my manipulation tactics now.
Define best behavior. Okay. So if we're talking about, yeah, so we have to define best behavior.
Okay, we're gonna define it as not messing with other women at this point.
Okay, we're gonna have to define that too. Okay, so listen. Okay, I'll put it this way: were there women that he had still had contact with in some way, that he's had a sexual relationship with, or some sort? Those people were always there. That he was always constantly having at least a minimum a dialogue with them.
Okay,
like if they were friends.
And was it discussed that he would no longer have those conversations with people in whom he had sexual relationships with?
No, so that wasn't discussed until after I left the marriage for 8 months. That wasn't discussed until after that. So, but going into marriage, no, there was not really a dialogue about like, hey, all these people that you've had a relationship with or whatever in the past, like all of them need to cut out. You ain't no friends. There was no dialogue about that. I didn't have any boundaries,
right,
or barriers.
I didn't even know what that was.
I didn't even know what a boundary was.
Exactly.
Like, what is that? I didn't have any standard, or like, I didn't even know that was a thing that you can actually request, or not even request, that you implement.
Right.
So, yeah, there was none of that. So, was there people that he had at least a minimum conversation with, that he has had sex with or had dealings with? Those people had always been there at minimum in conversation form. As far as having a sexual encounter, to my knowledge, there wasn't a whole lot going on. But then again, not too long after our premarital counseling failed, he met up with
Don't say no
a
name,
relative.
Danae.
I wasn't.
Okay.
I was bridling. I was thinking.
Met up with Shaniqua Thomas.
Right,
And,
a relative, and well, supposed to like a distant relative. It's like one, like, you know, their cousin married my dad, so that's my cousin type of thing situation. But like a relative, essentially claiming as a relative, they met up, and this is somebody that he had a conversation or like sexual conversations with and things like that in the past.
Sexual conversation.
So there's still things are gone, fam. Still things are gone, fam. You get me? There's still things are gone, fam. Like, yo, this is before the marriage too as well. So there's still things going in, yeah. It's like, but he was still doing things behind the scenes, because even she knew, even she knew there was still someone he was talking to, still receiving attention from, still, you know, still enjoying the throes of women that were finding him attractive and wanted him, and who he has slept with as well. He's still talking to those women, but she didn't know what boundaries were. And that really translates to, I didn't know my value. I didn't know I had value. Okay? I didn't know I didn't know I had value. And that's the biggest issue we find in these situations. It's the reason why people do what they do is because they don't know what value they have. They don't know their value. And this is why the Lord says, you know, when he talks to us about making us beautiful, you know, and that we are his masterpiece. You understand? Oh, sorry, apologies. Because what it's describing is that is your value. You are God's masterpiece. And so therefore, that's the level of value you are attributed. You're wonderfully and fearfully made. It's an attribute of value attached and applied to you. You know, and so a lot of people who are in these situations and toxic, dysfunctional situations do not know their value. Okay. Right. But the thing is, he knew her value. See, Derek Jackson knew her value. This is where the manipulation kicks in, because I know your value, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I mean, I'm not better than him, you know. I'm not gonna say I'm better than him because I've done some bad things in the past. Okay, so I'm not gonna say I'm better than him. Okay, all right. Just gonna tell you the truth. I'm not. Okay, yeah. Okay, but her value in terms of when it comes to giving herself over, you know, it's almost like going. And I was speaking about this to someone else, but here's what's my value, right? And let's go a little bit about this as well, because this is really important. Understanding your value. You know, your value. Okay, and this is why I was saying about earlier on, your value is so important because it's oftentimes determined. Your first instance of value is determined by your upbringing, you know, and you're given that value by your parents, by the love that they give you, and they help you attain an understanding of how I should market myself and what value I have. It's like going into a shop. Some shops you go into, you will haggle, and some shops you will never haggle in, because you know they don't haggle on their value. They don't haggle on their price. This is what you're going to pay. And unfortunately, yes, Elsid, trauma does skew your valuation of your value, right? But her value was already mashed up before she got to that place, because her parents, you know, unfortunately, her parents unfortunately mashed that up. Right, and so now, then you add the grape and the sexual violence that she ensued. That violence makes you question your value. And it's so interesting. I was saying something to back in some few months ago on a particular podcast, or sorry, a particular YouTube channel, and I spoke about the word violence. And violence doesn't have to be that a person is going to punch you or kick you. Sometimes violence is the threat of action, and sometimes the threat of consequence, not necessarily a violent action in terms of physicality, but sometimes the consequence of your actions. For instance, as Black people, we don't always know our value because the threat of consequences that we have faced in the lieu of our history makes us lower our value in the face of us being of us receiving what we should receive. Our trauma of our history in slavery has been passed down through generation to generation. And even though I'm not in chains, your system, which is systematically racist, has also taught me, even though I'm not being punched and kicked, even though I can get a job, even though I can go to education, even though I can, make money, even though I can see some Black people attaining wealth, I have a history that goes before me that tells me consequences due to me knowing my value. And in fact, when I try to act like I have value, there are times where you will see the other person doesn't want you to have your value. In fact, I say this: Black people, we are in a slavery, we are in a traumatic relationship with white supremacy. We are in a toxic, dysfunctional, abusive relationship with white supremacy. And so what happens is, when you're in that situation, it's hard to know what your value is. And that's what she's facing. So I do understand where she's coming from. She didn't know her value, so she cannot attach a boundary because she doesn't know her base level. If you don't know your base level, you don't know how much to charge, right? And even me, sometimes when I'm doing, someone asks me how much you charge for, advertising, I don't know. Sometimes I don't know until someone gives me a value and says, it's okay, I think it's worth 200. And I'm like, oh, okay, I think it's worth 200. Then I charge someone 200. But someone might come and be like, it's actually worth 500. Oh, I didn't know. It's worth 500. I put 200 because I thought that's what it was worth. But it's actually worth 500. Oh my God, I've undervalued myself, right? And this happens in relationship formats too. I didn't know I was worth more than that. I didn't know I offered more than that. The reality is, Derek Jackson saw the value of her. Okay. Derek Jackson saw the value in her. Okay. And saw that she brought more value to him being in the role that she's in than anything else. So long as she keeps quiet and she shuts up, she got the value that I needed. I can have her there. You know what I mean? But as soon as you gain your healing and you realize, and people are undervaluing you, you can't stay there anymore, because you know that this is not what you're meant for. Okay? You know that's not what you're meant for. And you can't be strong on your value until you know the truth of what you're worth. Right? Yeah, exactly, Jay. Right? The grape that happened does remove what you feel is value. It resets the bar for you, resets the value system all over again, because you don't have sovereignty. That's what I was saying earlier on about the sovereignty. You don't feel like you have the right to have value, but it's peak. So yeah.
So they had sex.
He says that they had never had sex. It didn't go past their sexual conversations and things like that, but they did meet up not too long after the marital counseling,
the premarital
counseling that we had. So
you don't know what happened. If anything happened, they just met up to
right. So outside of that, I don't know. When something did happen, let's see, that was like a couple weeks before we got married. And I didn't even think we were going to get married because it was such a big blow up. And so he got his hair cut by a girl that he used to have sex with, and She posted a picture on Instagram with hearts. He was standing behind her, and there's hearts surrounding them, and I lost it on him. I lost it. I did not use any kind of biblical words at all. And I didn't even know biblical words at that time. So I lost it. And, you know, at that point, it kind of triggered, like, he was like, you don't trust me. Like, you're supposed to be able to trust me. Like, I'm not even I needed my haircut because I'm trying to make a living for us. Like, this is important. There was nobody else available. And I'm like, you didn't even tell me about this. At minimum, you tell me that you have to get a haircut, and you didn't even do that. Not only did you not do that, you hid it from me. You sent the haircut appointment confirmation to the work email, and I'm running your emails. What kind of right? And so it was at that point where I blew up, where I was like, okay, I need to get help. I got to figure out myself. And I actually got therapy. I got 3 therapists.
You got 3? Why you need 3?
I needed all 3. All 3 of them. I got
one of them miss something, the other one pick it up.
Exactly.
Not miss something.
Yes. And I did that for about 3 months until I settled on one. And then I was with her for about 1.5 years. Yes.
So you said this was a couple of weeks before y'all said I do?
Yes.
And then after you got over that, y'all just decided to go ahead and get married at the same time. Y'all didn't change the date 2 weeks later.
Yeah, no, we did not change the date. We still got married 3 weeks later. We did it. I was pregnant actually with our son. Nobody really knew I was pregnant because I wasn't really showing that much. And I didn't tell a whole lot.
What's going on here? Wait. So she had 3 therapists, chose one, and then she still had another baby. No, guys. Wait, what? Because the baby was 2 months born already, right? So I'm confused. Wait, is that the same kid? Is that the same same first kid? I think I got confused. Okay, because I don't know if I don't know if I'm missing it here. I don't know. She was, because I thought she was. Wait, I remember her saying that she was. No, they already had their kid already 2 months old before they got married. So the fact that they had a kid 3. I'm confused. Yeah. Oh my God. So we're not learning our lessons? Jesus. We're getting pregnant again? So we're pregnant again with another kid.
A lot of people.
So you're pregnant with the second child?
Yes, our son. And
he just said it.
So yeah.
And so now you get pregnant. It's a trip. You're getting pregnant in trauma. It's like the first time you got pregnant, you're passing women down the stairwell or passing them as you leave. Y'all making y'all D appointments.
Yeah,
and
right.
so then you end up getting pregnant. You said 8 o'clock. That was your standing appointment. 8 o'clock. On what day was it?
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You know, listen, before that, her song came out about, you know, only on the weekend. Listen, that was already going on.
That was already going on in your life.
I had to renounce that, by the way. That is not okay behavior. I do not endorse that behavior. I'm just testifying.
Testify right now. And so you had your standing appointment, and then you end up getting pregnant, and then I don't know what motivated him, but he will have to tell that story of what made him decide, well, let me marry her.
Yeah, I'm not sure what really prompted him. Was his
family that told him that? Was it he always promised himself that he'll never have a kid out of luck? I don't know what his journey is.
Well, I don't know like of his story, but from just some conversations that we had, it was like when we were in college, I always said that I would leave and go back to Denver if like certain situations happen. I'm leaving, I'm taking the baby with me, and I think that scared him. So I think it was like, okay, he's living his best life, and I'm sitting up here allowing it, right? Because I'm a willing participant, and now and so he said that I'm going to leave because now I had a conversation with his mom, and I'm like, I'm tired of this life.
Mama told him too, said, baby.
Right. And I believe she did, because he brought that up to me. When you told my mom this, and I'm like, okay, your mom clearly told you that. So cool. So clearly there was a conversation, but I don't know that necessarily that motivated him per se. But I think it was a combination of like his mom told him what I said, and then whatever I said in college, where I'm like, I will leave you or whoever, I will leave and take this baby with me and go back to Colorado, have my mama and my people out there help me raise this child. We've been doing it, you know, that mentality.
Yeah.
And he was like, he can't have that. He wants to be involved and all that. So I think all of those at least played a factor into it.
So now you're pregnant. People don't know it. You're walking down the aisle. Y'all just dealt with some stuff 3 weeks prior. You have reason to believe that this other woman that you already know he messed around with, she's posting stuff for the world to see on Instagram, hearts around it. He behind it. They taking his picture. He tried to hide the actual haircut appointment. And so you already suspect about that. You get married. Was that a day of wedded bliss? Were you happy to put everything behind the veil and said, I'm going to put all the past behind us, start afresh. We're going to start anew. And I am now Mrs. Jackson. Miss Jackson, if you know.
Yes. All of the above. No, I was so excited to be getting married. And again, my mentality at that time is where like, I'm getting married. Everything is like my dream wedding.
And I won.
And so everything is falling into place. The only agitation I had was because I was pregnant and I was hungry. And you know, the wedding timeline sometimes, you be hungry. And I'm like, I'm pregnant. I'm actually 6 months pregnant at this point.
You were 6 months?
6. And nobody could really tell. Like people were like, are she pregnant or is she not pregnant? Like that's how it was.
6 months.
6 months. So I wasn't necessarily showing as much as I could have. After that, though, I was like, people were like, what happened?
You got your honeymoon, boy.
Right.
Y'all was lit.
Right.
I don't know what y'all did on your honeymoon.
Right. And so that day, though, it was great. Like it was like everything was coming into place. Outside of course, like I said, being hungry, and then with a little bit of agitation because he had already been pre-gaming with like, you know, having a couple of drinks with his friends, you know, the best man. So I was upset first off because I can't drink and I could taste the alcohol in your breath. You know,
you may not kiss the bride. You like, God, it tastes like Jack Daniels.
Right, exactly. That's the first thing I said. I was like, you've been drinking, you know, and you know, pregnant women, they like have a sensitivity to every like smell and taste. And like, is that what year is that? You know, and so,
oh God.
But no, it was great. It was everything that I could have dreamed of in that moment.
So after that, was everything going great for a period of time? Was there a period of time of wedded bliss? Don't say define what wedded bliss is.
Okay, no, we're not gonna do that then. So. Wedded bliss.
Was it happy? Was it like, oh, he stopped? I'm not threatened by other women that he's bringing into the relationship.
No.
We're good. He's thriving. He's doing these car videos and he's thriving, inspiring millions of women across the world. And he's treating me the same way as what he's telling other women to accept treatment as. He's honoring me as his queen. I'm his wife and he's treating me accordingly.
Okay. So no. No, it was not. And I wish it had been. But so after that, we went on our honeymoon. That was great. Even at the honeymoon, it was like he was on his phone a lot. And so, you know, I felt some type of way about that. But I like, you know, whatever, you know, he has to work because, you know, look at the life I'm living, you know, like I got caught up in like, oh, I never experienced anything like this before.
Explain that because people don't understand what you mean by that life. Like what life are you living?
Okay, so there is a life of glam and riches and fame. Like when you have some status, it comes with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It comes with access to stuff. It comes with like this extra treatment. It comes with money. You know, I had not experienced any type of level of that. And I'm like, I've been all the Disney movies paying off. I'm living the life of the rich and famous. Look at him. He's fine and he's doing this. And I get to stay at home. And like I was a whole Atlanta housewife without being on a show. Right? Whole out here.
Like she said, the thing is that, oh crap, sorry, I took it off the screen. But the thing is, you know, like she was saying, there's a lot that comes with it. You know what I mean? There's a lot that comes with him ascending in his status. You know, as he grew and as he became bigger and bigger, you know, there was more that came with it. And that's another thing that's going to add to making it difficult to leave. You know, that's going to be another thing that's going to make it harder to step into your own. And at that point, I guess, obviously, he had become much bigger. He was growing in influence. She talks about it as well. They had to hire a team out. Like they were doing a lot. You know what I mean? They were doing a lot. He was doing a lot.
And so
whole Atlanta house,
no show behind the scenes, right? No status.
And
right?
so you were running the business though, right? You were doing the back end stuff.
Yes, behind the scenes. I was doing the customer service. I was hiring people for his team, adding people on there. All of that. I had to get some help. I hired a couple of people to like help take some things off of my plate because there's so much. He was growing so fast with all the different aspects of his business. But no, it wasn't just marital bliss there was a lot of women that he was still at minimum having conversation with, and that I caught him with, and I was just like, this cannot happen.
You caught him having a conversation?
Yeah, it's like he's literally texting them while we're in the bed. I'm like, why is this name in there? Why are you still talking to her? I thought I had told you how I felt about this, and this is where I had, still in a toxic way, but I had started being a little bit more vocal on the toxic side of saying, hey, this is not okay. Essentially I was pressing at the root of it. This is not okay. And I feel some type of way about it, but it wasn't in a healthy way. I could have done it a lot better than what I did. But there was that. And then with that, it was like, you're insecure. I have to do business. These are business people. I built these relationships. I'm like, well, nobody told you to mix business and pleasure. So if you have business with them, that means, guess what? You need to cut all business ties. This is not a relationship that you can have. Right. And so that caused a lot of just friction, and it became, I'm insecure, I'm unhealed, people change, but I need to figure out my own stuff, which, I mean, those things are true. I was insecure.
Hold on, sorry. Hold on, guys. I think my internet is trying to play me up, boy. Hold on a minute.
I did.
I can't hear a thing. Why can't I hear nothing? Anyway, listen, all I can say is at this moment that he's a bit mad. He's a bit mad. I think at this point, obviously, she's now the manipulation is really kicking in, because he wants to be able to control the situation, right? So now we've got a situation where, he's talking to other women and saying, oh, no, we're just cool, we're just friends, etc., etc. You know what I mean? Like, he knows what he's doing at this point. He hasn't stopped, and he's going to continue to do it. Like, if I can keep pulling, and here's the thing, if I can keep pulling the wool over your eyes and I don't have to do much effort, I'm just going to continue doing it. You know what I mean? If I go, and again, it comes down to moral conscience as well. If I go into a shop and you tell me it's £5, but I get $5 or £5, and I give you a pound or $1, and you just accept it, I might just keep doing the dollar tinkers, right? Now, I know some of you are going to say you wouldn't do that, but the reality is we teach people how we're going to be treated. Right? We teach people how we want to be treated. So if you tell me you're $5, you got to show me that is what your worth is. Because if you say to me it's $5 and I give you $1 and you accept it, and I keep doing this over a course of time, I'm not going to change. I'm not going to change. But now she's starting to up the price and be like, actually, no, it's $3, right? He's now trying to haggle and get her back down again. Now he wants to try and get her back down again. So now the manipulation has to increase, right? The manipulation has to increase, because I need to get you back to your position, because very soon you're going to know your true value. And when you know your true value, it won't be me that will be around, because you'll know that you don't need me. Right? You'll know that you don't need me. You'll know that you'll know that I'm not the one. You'll know that, okay, you'll know that I'm not treating you the way you need to be treated. Therefore, you'll leave me, right? So I think this is also important. I think this is also important as well, right? That aspect does come into play. And I see that now that as she's growing in her value, he's increasing his manipulation. Because, and I'll say this as well, this is why if you've ever read the book of Boundaries or Attachment, Assertiveness, you'll realize that when someone is used to, let's say, for instance, a family member is used to borrowing money from you, and you always said yes. Yeah? You always said yes. The moment you say no and you mean it, they start their manipulation. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're saying no to me. How dare you? Like, you know, I thought we're meant to be family. We're supposed to be friends. You said you always support me in my situation. The manipulation kicks in. You know why? Because now they've seen that you know your worth. They want to bring you back down to where you didn't know your worth. Because now you know your worth. They can't start having their way with you as they used to. Yeah, well, ladies, you know this, man. Them when we sleep with you or whatever, we're having our way with you, and then you say, "Look, no more. I'm not having it no more." Yeah, can't just sleep with me no more. And suddenly you're saying, "Well, I've got a value. Either you be with me or you leave it alone." Right? And when it gets to that place, you're like, "Oh, man, them get vexed," and then they start their whole, you know, babe, you know, I always wanted you. Like, come on now, like, you know, because now they want what they originally had. This is why I said, okay. All right. If you don't give me the person, if you don't, if you teach me that you're $1, but then I'm paying $1 and you increase it to $5, you're gonna encounter some warfare, right? You're gonna encounter some warfare on your part.
Need to figure out some things like within myself to be more secure and at least to come to him assertively and be able to communicate in a more manner, but it still pacify or negate the fact that these conversations and these relationships should not be existing. So there was both of those dynamics happening at the same time, and I didn't have the words or the tools to be able to really navigate that the best way that I could have.
So to be clear, at this point, what year are we talking about? Year 1 or 2?
This is the first.
So the first year, first couple of months, you hadn't caught him. No more videos in his phone, sleeping with nobody. Nobody sending you videos and pictures that he had been cheating on you. Just inappropriate conversations.
Inappropriate conversations at this point, out of them. And so, I mean, there were so many to where I'm coming off of just having a baby, right? Or having our second child. I had severe postpartum actually with both children. So just think of all the trauma that we're unpacking already that never really dealt with. Severe postpartum where I was on medication for like 8-9 months on medication and going to the medical therapy that I had to go through just for being on postpartum depression. So all of this stuff is happening, and it was in that time where apparently more of the conversations and transformed into more conversations, and I didn't find out about it though until, you know, like months later. But that is around the time where those conversations became more than conversations again and started to be physical things. So
we're going to stop right now, and we're going to come back. Going to come back tomorrow for the infamous bonnet video that you participated in. You always say you're a willing participant, and this was an opportunity again where you were a willing participant.
Yes.
But thank you so much for sharing and unpacking what you've done thus far. And the next episode, we're going to deep dive a little bit. So I want you to tune in tomorrow for part 2, where Danae Jackson, call her Miss Jackson if you're freaky. Or if you're nasty,
right?
Yeah,
right.
Call you Miss Jackson if you're nasty, huh?
That's what I was claiming.
So tune in tomorrow to watch part 2.
Ha ha he ho. Listen, tomorrow's gonna get wild, so we're gonna definitely park up for tomorrow. Hopefully, I have enough time to do it. But it's been crazy. I don't know what else to say. Like, it's madness out here. Woo, baby, listen, it's mad in the dunya. Look, I think we've said a lot in the last 3 hours. I'm gonna chop up the video, so I'm gonna pick out the points where I did some commentary, and I'll put it up for you guys as well. But listen, you know, you got to know your value. You know what I mean? That's what we spoke about. And if you have been through traumatic experiences in life, please get yourself a therapist. Get yourself in some therapy. Get yourself in some counseling, because it will help you see the world for how you need to see it, you know, and give you some ownership as well. Okay. So if anybody's been through some traumatic experiences, get yourself a therapist. There's things like BetterHelp as well, who are there. I don't get paid to announce them, but I thought it could be good to say it. BetterHelp is there and stuff. But yeah, honestly, it's real, because it's nuts. It's nuts. All right, guys, like, share, subscribe, click on the bell button for notification. Don't forget to leave a comment down below. We appreciate, guys. Stay locked, stay loaded. Gosh, man, it's a lot, man. We'll see you tomorrow, guys. Okay, tomorrow we'll be back here again. Okay, tomorrow.